Unfortunately, after hundreds of thousands of years and changing eras, the cleansing incense ancient sect was no longer the immortal sect of an emperor's lineage that dominated the 8 Decilices. Countless years have passed. The cleansing incense ancient sect had begun its decline. Although the sect experienced periods of revival, it could not reverse the trend of decay. In the Grand Hall, the great elders of the cleansing incense ancient sect were already gathered when a disciple rushed in to report. Elders? This is bad. There's a young man at the foot of the mountain who stormed up to the gate saying he wants to be our chief disciple. Throw him down the mountain, the great elder said, without even glancing up. Why do you need to report such a trivial matter? A mortal wanting to become the chief disciple of the cleansing incense ancient sect. What kind of joke is this? The chief disciple is the core disciple of the sect. In other words, they are the sect master's successor. The chief disciple often has the potential to become the next generation's sect master. Although the sect master was not present, the elders could still make decisions on matters like this. But it's him. In his hand, he has the cleansing incense ancient token. The disciple said, panting heavily. The cleansing incense ancient token. Upon hearing this, the great elder's expression changed. After a long moment of contemplation, he ordered, "Summon the other elders. Have that young man wait in the Grand Hall." At that moment, a young man was already standing at the entrance of the Grand Hall. "No need to invite me, I'm already here. The chief disciple has come to report." The incredibly sharp gazes of the 6 great elders fell upon Li Qiye, but faced with their astonishing aura and piercing looks, Li Qiye remained completely calm and at ease, standing there composedly. Finally, the second elder spoke in a low, cold voice. "Kid, what's your background? Do you know how difficult it is to be the chief disciple of my cleansing incense ancient sect? What gives you the right?" For the cleansing incense ancient sect, the cleansing incense ancient token was a matter of great importance. This was an item left behind by their ancestor, immortal emperor, Min Renli. Qiye slowly opened his hand, revealing an ancient token, and said, "My name is Li Qiye. The ancestral teaching of immortal emperor Min Ren states, whoever possesses the cleansing incense ancient token shall be considered a distinguished guest of the sect, and may make any request that the cleansing incense ancient sect is obligated to fulfill." After hearing this, the great elder's face darkened as he asked, "How can you prove the cleansing incense ancient token in your hand is real?" Li Qiye then flicked his wrist, sending the ancient token flying towards the elders. This cleansing incense ancient token was a gift from the 3 ghosts. If you don't believe me, you can go to the Tuihong Pavilion at the foot of the mountain to have him verify it. The great elder caught the token. The 6 great elders examined the cleansing incense ancient token closely while chattering amongst themselves. Tuihong Pavilionis, that a brothel. That old ghost is truly lecherous. That old ghost 3 ghosts is really insane. After a period of observation, they could finally confirm it. This cleansing incense ancient token was indeed real, causing the 6 elders to exchange glances. In fact, the cleansing incense ancient sect had always wanted to retrieve this ancient token. The sect had tried many methods to get it back from the hands of the 3 ghosts, but the 3 ghosts also knew this was his protective talisman and stubbornly refused to give it to the cleansing incense ancient sect. Unexpectedly, today, the 3 ghosts had given this ancient token to a quiet, unknown mortal. Although the elders recognized the real item, they were still hesitant, but thinking of the future of the cleansing incense ancient sect. The second elder couldn't help but speak up. "Senior brother, the date of the marriage alliance with the 9 Saint Demon Gate is approaching. Only with the resources of the 9 Saint Demon Gate will we have a chance to revive." Although that kid's background is unclear, the position of chief disciple truly has no other candidates. If this kid really has ability, we might as well keep him. After hearing this, the great elder no longer hesitated. With a wave of his hand, he brought out the physique mirror, saying, "We'll know if he has ability or not with one look." Soon the physique mirror shone upon Li Qiye's body. Any mortal who wished to enter a sect to cultivate the Tao had to undergo the light of the physique mirror to see their physique, longevity wheel, and fate palace type. Within the physique mirror, Li Qiye's figure was illuminated. His figure was hazy and wavering like a candlelight that could be extinguished at any moment. Behind his head, there was a faint ring of blood-red light, and inside his head, a faint cluster of light. Both the blood light and the light image were hazy and unclear. Physique, mortal physique, longevity, wheel, mortal wheel, fate palace, mortal fate. Finally, Li Qiye's physique. Longevity, wheel, and fate palace were determined. Everyone possesses a physique, a longevity wheel, and a fate palace. The physique directly relates to the body's strength, the longevity wheel to the length of one's lifespan, and the fate palace to the quality of one's talent. Seeing that Li Qiye had a mortal physique, mortal wheel, and mortal fate, the 6 great elders fell silent. Such a physique, such a longevity wheel, such a fate palace in the mortal world. You could grab a huge bunch of people with these conditions just by reaching out. Any ordinary person likely had such attributes. The great elder said coldly, "Your qualifications are not suitable to be the chief disciple. It wouldn't be a problem if you became an outer disciple of our sect, but chief disciple is out of the question." The disciple who had delivered the news earlier, standing by his side, now tried to persuade him. That's right. If you cultivate diligently, even with poor aptitude, you can still achieve something." Li Qiye didn't even think about it, and slowly said, Is this how you treat your distinguished guests? My condition is to become the chief disciple. The creed of the cleansing incense, ancient sect. All disciples of cleansing incense shall place. Cultivation. First, renounce the mortal world and sever worldly ties to focus on cultivation. To cultivate is to cultivate the heart. Cultivate the heart. Cultivate the Tao. With a firm heart, cultivation will surely succeed. If the Tao heart is not pure, all methods are useless. To cultivate the heart, one must cultivate virtue to stand firm in the world. The virtueless will be scorned by the world and shunned by their kin. To cultivate virtue, one must also cultivate their words. A disciple of cleansing incense who does not keep their word cannot be taught. Li Qie's words immediately angered the other elders with a physique like his. It was fundamentally impossible for him to become the chief disciple. He didn't even meet the conditions to join the cleansing incense ancient sect. Yet now he wanted to be the chief disciple. How could they not be furious? Seeing that he knew the ancestral teachings so well, the great elder was a bit curious and asked, "These are the ancestral teachings of the cleansing incense ancient sect. How do you know them?" He answered casually. "Isn't it written on that dilapidated stone tablet by the road? I glanced at it on my way here. On the contrary, I'm surprised you still know these are the ancestral teachings." The great elder hesitated for a moment, thinking, if he remembered it from a single glance, he's either bluffing or an intelligent and knowledgeable talent. However, not daring to risk the sect's future on someone with an unknown background and no cultivation aptitude, the great elder frowned and said coldly, "Stop using the ancestral teachings to pressure me. Even so, the chief disciple of the cleansing incense ancient sect, regardless of their origin or background, must undergo a thorough investigation. Otherwise, it's impossible to become the chief disciple. Moreover, letting you become the chief disciple would be the ruin of the cleansing incense ancient sect." These words made Li Qie laugh out loud. What a fine cleansing incense ancient sect. The elders are not united and the ancestral teachings are ignored. What a promising future. The great elder was about to lose control of his anger and deliver a fatal blow. If not for the cleansing incense ancient token in Li Qie's hand, he would have lost his life long ago. Suddenly a laugh echoed from the entrance of the grand hall. A middle-aged man had appeared there at some unknown time and said, "Your esteemed sect is quite lively today." The middle-aged man standing before the grand hall was Yu He, the chief protector of the 9 Saint Demon Gate, who had come on the Demon Emperor's orders to visit the cleansing incense ancient sect. But his main purpose was to convey the message that he wanted to test the fiancée of the Demon Emperor's disciple, who was also the princess of the 9 Saint Demon Gate. The protector politely cupped his hands and said, "Her Highness the Princess possesses unparalleled beauty and talent with a rare Saint-Level royal noble physique. If your esteemed sect's chief disciple has poor aptitude, I'm afraid the cleansing incense ancient sect will be mocked by the world. Therefore, His Majesty the Demon Emperor has decided to invite your sect's chief disciple to undergo an examination. If he passes, others can say nothing. If he unexpectedly fails, my 9 Saint Demon Gate can only apologize and offer compensation for this marriage." The great elder's face was grim as he said to the second elder beside him, "The 9 Saint Demon Gate has really calculated this well." The second elder's mood wasn't much better. It was clear they didn't want to accept this marriage alliance. Immediately after, Li Qie's laughter broke the silence. He crossed his arms, shaking his head mockingly. "Ha ha ha ha. The 9 Saint Demon Gate only survived back then by hiding in the shadow of the cleansing incense ancient sect. Yet now they have the audacity to test the chief disciple of the cleansing incense ancient sect. How ridiculous. The disciple following you, he heard Li Qie insult their sect and angrily shouted, "You little beast, you dare to insult my sect! Do you believe I'll cut out your tongue?" Li Qie didn't stop, but continued to mock the ancestor of the 9 Saint Demon Gate, calling him an old chickenhead and saying they only inherited the arrogance of the demon race. The great protector, angered, moved to kill Li Qie. But contrary to the fearful retreat he expected to see, Li Qie just stood there calmly and leisurely watching. At that moment, the 2 elders intervened, dispelling, He's a tack kid. You knew we would step in to save you." He looked up at the second elder with a disdainful expression and said, "If you don't even manage this, the cleansing incense ancient sect is truly finished." Seeing he was being blocked, he dropped all pretense of courtesy and shouted angrily, "This guy insulted our sect. Why are you elders protecting him? Do you want to be enemies with the 9 Saint Demon Gate?" The great elder didn't back down either. "Does Protector Yu intend to kill someone in the grand hall of the cleansing incense sect?" Seeing this, the disciple following him cupped his hands and told Yu he to just hand Li Qie over to him. He then turned to Li Qie and shouted, "Kid, I challenge you to a duel. Do you dare to accept? Looking for death? Fine, I'll grant you your wish." Hearing Li Qie agree, the great elder thought to himself, he really doesn't know what's good for him. But the second elder felt he had great courage. The great elder stepped forward and patted both their shoulders. "Very well." Passed down the order to prepare the fighting arena for these 2 young men. Because he had no weapon for self-defense, the elders made an exception and allowed Li Qie to enter the armory pavilion to choose an item. On the shelves, weapon after weapon shone with brilliant and magnificent light. Li Qie glanced over them but was drawn to a pile of miscellaneous items in a neglected corner. He rummaged through it, and to the astonishment of the guiding disciple, triumphantly chose a fire-starting stick. "I've decided on this stick." Both of them were now on the arena stage. The referee began to announce, "Today's match has no restrictions on techniques or weapons. It will only end when one side falls or surrenders. If neither side has any objections, then this old man will serve as the referee for this match. Dooming of the Nine, Saint Demon Gate versus Li Qie. Let the duel begin. Both sides watched the match intently. He wanted to see Dooming teach Li Qie a good lesson to see if he would dare to insult the Nine Saint Demon Gate again. As for the Great Elder, he wanted to use Dooming's hand to eliminate Li Qie and retrieve the ancient token. Almost no one thought Li Qie would win. On the arena, Dooming had already made his move. His movement technique was incredibly swift, approaching and injuring Li Qie's neck. The second elder had to admit that this little demon from the Demon Gate had a very fast movement technique. For someone his age, it was truly rare. The Great Elder also recognized this as the true sun. Art, this technique of the Nine Saint Demon Gate, emphasized agility and required great precision. Manhwa Ren, standing beside them, couldn't help but worry and shouted, "Li Qie, why are you just standing there frozen? Hurry up and counterattack." Back in the duel, Dooming now launched his second attack. With his talent, it wasn't difficult to wield his sword with such dizzying speed. Although it was just one sword, it created the illusion of 1,000 blades. As soon as this blow was delivered, Li Qie's body was instantly covered in wounds. The disciple Manhwa Ren couldn't help but sigh. This wasn't a duel, it was torture to death. However, the Great Elder believed that Li Qie had brought this upon himself. Dooming shouted, "It's not over yet, let's see where you can run." With that, he used his ultimate technique, slashing wildly. The problem was that every sword strike landed precisely on the original wounds. Even the referee remarked that Dooming's speed and proficiency were truly extraordinary. Dooming continued speaking to Qie. "By now, you must know how big the gap between us is, right? Don't worry, my family's next strike will finish you, saving you from further torment." As he finished speaking, Dooming immediately rushed forward, aiming his sword straight at Li Qie's heart. With a despicable look, he continued to taunt him. "Feeling much more relieved now, aren't you, kid? In the underworld, remember to be grateful to me for giving you this swift end." Li Qie quickly collapsed before the sword that had pierced through his body. But just as Dooming thought Qie was dead, he unexpectedly looked up and said, Hey, that really hurts, you know." Dooming looked again and realized he had actually missed, but he knew that with his swordsmanship missing, a strike was completely absurd. To be more precise, Li Qie was actually hiding his true strength. Just like that, he leaped back into a defensive stance. Seeing this, Li Qie wiped the blood from his body and asked Dooming, "Is that all it takes for you to get scared?" Taunted by his opponent, Do became enraged from embarrassment and shouted, "Do you really think I can't kill you?" With that, he frantically rushed forward, thrusting his sword at Li Qie. However, this time, Qie nimbly dodged every single move. Faced with this situation, Dooming quickly asked, "What on earth just happened? How did you become so agile in an instant?" Now it was Dooming's turn to be mocked. Li Qie said loudly, "The disciples of the Nine Saint Demon Gate are so pathetic." Yua, standing outside, widened his eyes in disbelief. He couldn't believe his disciple truly couldn't do anything to Li Qie. However, he also understood that Qie's skills were far from simple. On the other side of the stands, the two elders and Manhwa Ren were equally astonished. Manhwa Ren now realized that Li Qie was actually a person who hid his true depths, but the two elders saw that something was amiss here. The Nine Saint Demon Gate's true sun art, though sharp, lacked a great deal of variation. The elder believed that during the two previous times he was hit, Li Qie had silently memorized his opponent's moves. That's why he was able to dodge when Dooming used the same old techniques. The problem was to be able to memorize an opponent's attack patterns in such a short time meant Li Qie was truly not simple. However, in the end, the Great Elder still didn't think highly of Li Qie. He believed that no matter how intelligent he was, Li Qie fundamentally lacked the ability to fight back. Back on the arena after being verbally attacked for a while, Dooming seemed to lose control of his anger. His entire body was now like a furnace. He looked up and gave a sinister smile, saying, "Li Qie, I will make you die a very ugly death. Damn it, you're just a worthless insect with no cultivation. Don't get ahead of yourself." Li Qie gave a slight smile and replied, "Finally getting serious, are you? In that case, I want to get serious too." With that, he pulled out his dry stick to face the challenge. The second elder was very surprised and asked Manhwa Ren, "Do we have this kind of weapon in our armory?" He hesitated and said yes, but of course he couldn't reveal that Li Qie had dug it out from a pile of junk. As for Dooming, after seeing Li Qie pull out his weapon, he said with a contemptuous look on his face, "A stick? Are you kidding me? Fine, whatever. Even if you hold a divine weapon, an insect is still an insect." Yuha, seeing the change in his disciple's aura, also looked forward to seeing how Li Qie would defend himself this time. Suddenly, Dooming seemed to vanish from where he was standing. This speed was truly unbelievable. Manhwa Ren and the second elder were also having an existential crisis. Neither could understand how a kid could have such high cultivation. Just as Li Qie detected the enemy above his head, Dooming was already holding his sword and leaping down. Dooming, with a blazing aura, brought his sword plunging straight down at Li Qie, prepared to die. Li Qie very calmly dodged his attack. Every swing of his stick was executed with such decisiveness that it astonished Yu He, who was watching from the side. He even precisely aimed and struck at Dooming's weak point. Outside, Manhwa Ren and the elders of the Cleansing Incense sect were either astonished or smiling with satisfaction. Dooming struck in a vital point, coughed up blood, and collapsed from the pain. Elder Mo shouted, "The winner is decided," after seeing Dooming fall. Yuha rushed towards him in a panic. He held his disciple's body stiff with pain and said, "Wake up, Dooming. in pain struggled to speak. Master now. A red mist emanated from his body, that mist gradually dissipating into the air. This is you. He couldn't help but feel fear. He was slightly stunned, as if he couldn't believe his eyes. He turned towards Li Xie and shouted loudly, "You little beast, you're so cruel. You actually crippled the cultivation of a disciple of my 9-Saint Demon Gate." In complete contrast to the man's fury, Li Xie smiled mockingly. "Oh, is it that tragic?" Nanhuiren, hearing this from the sidelines, was also incredibly astonished and exclaimed that Li Xie can cripple a cultivator's cultivation base with a single strike. The elder standing next to him laughed heartily, clearly delighted. That so-called true son Arton, a flash. He's been turned into a cripple. What cultivation is left? In contrast to that joyful expression, the great elder standing beside him looked thoughtful. But then again, if Li Xie only remembered his opponent's moves, how could he, after dodging Du Ming's variation, launch an attack from a blind spot? Are you really just a little brat with no cultivation? Li Xie, just how many secrets are you hiding from us? On the stage, Li Xie was still arguing with you. You said he was determined to kill me, yet I spared his life. Does your 9-Saint Demon Gate want to cast aside even the dignity of a cultivator? He was naturally provoked by those words. His anger over his disciple's crippled cultivation had not subsided. It was like adding fuel to the fire. He furiously demanded to kill Li Xie. Of course, he was very pleased with his own provocation, smiling and telling the man to come at him. Li Xie, in a ready stance, suddenly froze when he saw a dark red figure appear before him like the wind. Elder Mo stood before him, deploying a shield that completely blocked Yuhi's attack. The mighty golden shield defeated the enemy, sending Yuhi staggering back a great distance before he collapsed. He intended to attack again, but the 3 elders of the Cleansing Incense sect very quickly restrained his every move. You he on a life-and-death duel stage ordained by fate. If you still insist on attacking, don't blame my Cleansing Incense ancient sect for not showing you respect. The great elder's voice was gentle, yet full of authority, but it seemed he didn't know when to stop. Very well, kid, the 3 elders have all come up. Elders. Li Xie, what on earth is your background? Your ancestor was also the chief disciple of the Cleansing Incense ancient sect. Li Xie curled his hand, pointing his thumb at himself, and calmly spoke. Hearing him speak, the great elder was so surprised he shouted, "What you?" He, who was nearby, couldn't hide his surprise either. Chief disciple, good, very good. Since your esteemed sect's chief disciple has been decided, the trial will begin in 3 days. If you're too scared to come, don't blame us for canceling the agreement. Li Xie, if you have the guts, come, visit my 9-Saint Demon Gate. Dark clouds gathered, blanketing the area. There was no thunder, no rain, only a memory of 3 young men. The 9-Saint Demon Gate. Min Ren repeated the name in surprise, as if to confirm. That's right. It's called the 9-Saint Demon Gate. Old Chickenhead, on the other hand, was very confident in the name he had come up with, ignoring Min Ren's difficult remark that the name sounded a bit demonic. Old Chickenhead declared very boldly, "I, Old Chickenhead, have never been one to shy away from my demon identity. I founded the 9-Saint Demon Gate to proclaim to the world that even demons can be righteous and upright." He looked up at the dark crow who was sitting on the pedestal of a statue. "My lord supports me too, right?" The dark crow grunted, and Min Ren continued, "Old Chickenhead, you relied entirely on your innate talent and physical body to achieve the Tao. Without a school of thought, how can you establish a sect?" But it seemed Min Ren's worries were in vain, as he heard Old Chickenhead laugh heartily and reply that he had thought of this point long ago. It's unknown where he got them, but he dumped a pile of books in front of Min Ren and the dark crow. The dark crow lay down, resting his chin on his hand, watching Min Ren helplessly deal with the pile of books Old Chickenhead had brought. What are you doing with so many low-level cultivation manuals?" Old Chickenhead laughed awkwardly. "I see you have the ability to perfect these manuals. If you help me perfect this batch of manuals, won't it be incredible?" Min Ren exclaimed. "Oh, so that was your plan, I can help. But as for the dark crow, The dark crow seemed to pay no mind to their conversation. He stared intently at a book titled True Sun Art and suggested it to the other 2. Min Ren agreed, saying the True Sun Art was quite suitable as a foundation for cultivation. Old Chickenhead thanked them profusely and said that after the sect was established, they must look after his little brothers. Li Xie leaned back against the old spot. He remembered the old days. Min Ren, Old Chickenhead. If you could see the situation now, how would you feel? The Cleansing Incense ancient sect is the same, and the 9-Saint Demon Gate is no different. They have all strayed from their original path. However, you can rest assured, since I promised you I would protect her, I will bring her to the pinnacle once again." He smiled and looked up at the night sky. The sound of footsteps broke his quiet atmosphere. It was the great elder of the Cleansing Incense sect, Li Xie. "That is the statue of our sect's founder who gave you permission to climb on it." He moved his gaze from the stars to look at the elder. The elder, still wearing his usual black robe, announced that the discussion had reached a conclusion. "Come to the main hall, we will discuss the specific matters of the chief disciple." The elder's tone was gloomy. In contrast, Li Xie smiled brightly, revealing his pearly white teeth. "That's more like it. Li Xie, you are now the chief disciple of our sect. From now on, you must pay attention to your every action, gesture, and word. Do not bring shame to our sect. Do you understand?" The 5 elders sat in a semicircle facing the entrance, their voices quite loud. But it seemed Li Xie didn't pay much attention to what those old men were saying. "What's this? These clothes are so hard to wear? I guess I'll wear them for now." The great elder was not very pleased with his attitude. Still acting so nonchalant, it seems you don't even know what you're about to face, do you? You crippled Yuhi's disciple. The so-called test is surely an arena for his revenge. Not to mention the 9-Saint Demon Gate is filled with experts. Li Jie, this trip for you is a 1 in 10 chance of survival. But it seemed the elder's worries were unnecessary. Li Jie was calm. What do you mean, filled with experts? Didn't I already cripple one of them? The great elder couldn't remain calm. He flew into a rage and shouted in his face, whose situation do you think will turn out worse? Let's see how long you can be smug. In contrast, the large elder beside him was quite calm. The great elder means that this trip is dangerous. Whatever secret manuals or weapons you need, just say the word. Li Jie crossed his arms and thought for a moment. He still decided to choose his stick as his weapon. As for cultivation manuals, Li Jie said he had heard the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect had a copy of the Strange Gate Saber art. He requested that along with a pair of dual sabers. The elder spoke with some difficulty after hearing his entire request. You a mortal martial art, not even worth mentioning like the Strange Gate Saber art and this stick too? What do you plan to do with them? Li Jie was very confident. Cultivation manuals and weapons are all external objects. Everything depends on what feels right in your own hands. I'll just choose these. His undeniably boastful tone made Nan Huairen standing beside him make a strange face. The elders were also helpless and no one said anything more. The great elder finally spoke up. Then you are dismissed for now. Huairen, you are in charge of giving the saber manual to Li Jie. Nan Huairen bowed and obeyed. Li Jie beside him waved goodbye. All right, I'm getting sleepy too. I'm out of here. With that, he turned and walked straight out the gate, with Nan Huairen trotting behind. Mind your words. The large elder turned to say to the great elder senior brother, why didn't you object to this kid's reckless behavior this time? The great elder coughed lightly. Speaking of recklessness, hasn't he been reckless enough today? But in the end, he surpassed our expectations and turned danger into safety. I think we should just let him be reckless to the very end. Who knows, a miracle might happen. The elder glanced at the two noisy figures heading out the gate. Hey, where's my room? I want to go lie down first. I've never been to the chief disciple's room either. Nan Huairen muttered as he followed. Li Jie flopped onto the bed as soon as he entered the room. Nan Huairen looked around the room and couldn't help but exclaim. As expected of the chief disciple's room. It's so spacious. It's unknown where Li Jie got it, but he pulled out a book, leaned back on the bed, opened it to read, and didn't forget to give Nan Huairen a so reply. You're really something. I can't believe you actually became the chief disciple. Congratulations. Li Jie seemed to barely hear his praise, his voice calm as if it were nothing. Yeah, it was easy. Oh right. This Strange Gate Saber art. Have you practiced it before? Nan Huairen was surprised. He had learned a little bit of it. Li Jie shot up immediately upon hearing that. His voice couldn't hide his excitement. It's good that you've learned it. Come practice with me. Nan Huairen thought he had misheard and asked again in a panic right now. Li Jie pulled him out into the courtyard. Use your hand as a blade as for how hard you strike. That's up to your mood. He took his stance first. Nan Huairen remained still, his fingertips still pointing towards the ground. Just a simple spar lacks a bit of motivation. Li Jie stood up straight, which made the boy wonder why he said that. Within 10 moves limited only to the techniques of the Strange Gate Saber. Art, if I can win, you'll be at my beck and call for a month. How about it? But it seems Nan Huairen misunderstood him. He thought win 1 out of 10 rounds. Is he trying to use the fairness of the rules to his advantage? Too naive. He loudly agreed. Then in return, if I win all rounds, you'll have to learn to speak respectfully from now on. Then the two of them rushed at each other. After more than 9 rounds of fighting, Nan Huairen could draw his own conclusion. He thought Li Jie was indeed still at the level of an outsider. Besides, how could an unorthodox martial art like the Strange Gate Saber art be effective in a duel against a cultivator? Nearly 9 matches passed without much tension, as the winner was always Nan Huairen. He thought, perhaps you want to walk this path alone, but this is reality. There aren't many chances left for you. In the final round, Nan Huairen maintained his usual expression, rushing at Li Jie and preparing to strike. This is the last strike. Mind your manners for me. It seemed he didn't notice the change at the corner of Li Jie's mouth. He curled his lips. Thanks for the lesson. His slender hand moved swiftly, blocking Nan Huairen's strike before he could even execute it. His hand rested on the boy's shoulder. Thanks to you, I've grasped the wonders of the Strange Gate Saber art. Only now did Nan Huairen realize the situation. He was incredibly surprised. Before he could even wonder what had happened, he heard Li Jie continue. Then, as agreed, for this 1 month you must be at my beck and call. He withdrew his hand from the shoulder of the person who still hadn't processed all the information, turned to leave, and didn't forget to leave behind a despicable smile. Go rest. First. Meanwhile, I'll slowly think of something for you to do. Nan Huairen, left behind, had a dark expression. Perhaps he finally understood. He had always considered himself clever, though he never acted like a young master. He always believed the decline of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect was an unchangeable situation. But this mortal physique, mortal fate kid before him made him see some kind of possibility. A bit of passion began to boil within him. Thinking of this, he suddenly shouted Li Jie's name. The person walking away turned to give him a sideways glance, asking what he wanted. Complete the trial, revive the ancient sect. You can do it. It's true that fighting is the only way to get closer. Just kidding. Of course, don't you guys try this at home. On that young man's radiant face, he saw the image of his old companion. He smiled brightly, a smile full of satisfaction. Does that even need to be said? Meanwhile, the sun at the 9 St. Demon Gate was brighter and hotter than ever. You were just supposed to deliver a message. How did it end up like this? Tu-Han was quite angry. I also didn't expect this child to slit his own throat. He was crippled by Li Qiye, unable to even continue his lineage. He's voice trembled as he spoke. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't hide his fury. Du Guangyuan looked angrily at the body of his younger brother and companion. Guangyuan, a cultivator's cultivation is their life. Your younger brother can be considered to have found an early release. Don't lose your Dao heart over this. Tu-Han spoke in a neutral tone, his face showing no hint of emotion. Guangyuan obeyed. And of course, Tu-Han was very pleased, he said. Only with a firm Dao heart can one cultivate steadily. Suppress your grief, you are dismissed for now. Du Guangyuan left the training room filled with hatred. His amber eyes glowed with a hint of blood red, and the color in his eyes also turned black. He walked with hatred, growling Li Qiye's name through clenched teeth. He would definitely kill this person. At the appointed time, Li Qiye and the elders of the Cleansing Incense sect arrived at the arena to prepare the transportation portal. The great elder still had a displeased expression. He said, Qiye, this trip is very important. Remember to be careful with your actions and words. Li Qiye propped his hands on his hips and said confidently, no problem. Rest assured. The surrounding elders and Nanhui Ren all had the same thought without planning it. It would be a miracle if we could rest assured. The great elder was at his wit's end and had to entrust Li Qiye to Elder Mo and Nanhui Ren. He also added a reminder to keep a close eye on Li Qiye. With that, he waved his hand, activating the portal. Go on. Senior brother the 9, St. Demon Gate is so powerful. The welcoming ceremony later must be very grand. Nanhui Ren couldn't contain his excitement. He advised senior brother, you must remain steady. Don't let outsiders laugh at you. Li Qiye chuckled softly. How grand of a formation could it be? Let's see first and talk later. Streaks of yellow light raced up and down continuously. A moment later, a light blue stone enveloped in hot flames appeared. They had arrived at the 9 St. Demon Gate. Everything was beyond Nanhui Ren's and Elder Mo's imagination. Is no one here to welcome us? Li Qiye laughed. Is this the welcoming ceremony you were talking about? From a distance, a figure was gradually approaching. It was Tu-Han. The chief disciple of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect has arrived. Tu-Han did not welcome them from afar. Please forgive us. His face was emotionless, but a bit more somber than usual. Elder Mo was quite angry and shouted, Tu-Han, just a protector like you comes to welcome us. What do you take my Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect for? In contrast, Tu-Han remained very calm and replied, Protector Mo, please forgive me. The great elder is in seclusion. The other elders also have their own matters to attend to. We truly have no other way. Elder Mo was still very angry with the other man's nonsensical way of speaking. Li Qiye, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Let it go. There's no need to take such trivial matters to heart. We'll just have to get compensated 100-fold during the trial. On the other side, Tu-Han heard these words. Uncontrollable killing intent radiated in all directions. He let out a gasp. I presume this is the chief disciple of your esteemed sect. Yes, it is indeed your ancestor here. Li Qiye propped his hands on his hips. He replied boldly to the other man, while Nanhui Ren beside him reminded him to watch his words. The killing intent from the 9. St. Demon Gate's protector did not dissipate. At such a young age, you've already surpassed 10% of our outer disciples. When the time comes, the 9 St. Demon Gate will certainly have to admire the chief disciple's demeanor. For now, let me lead the 3 of you to a place to rest. Wait for the day of the trial. He turned his back, ignoring the 3 of them. Li Qiye maintained his playful mood. No rush since the 9. St. Demon Gate is so prosperous now, let's take a look around. He ran off quickly, ignoring Elder Monan. Hui Ren followed behind, calling out senior brother. Tu-Han was naturally displeased. The 2 brothers ran to the grand duel arena of the 9 St. Demon Gate. Both were overwhelmed by the grandeur of the place. At the grand duel arena of the 9 St. Demon Gate, looking at the faces of the 4 enormous stone statues placed at each corner of the arena, Li Qiye couldn't help but sigh in admiration. This duel arena is quite something. Hearing this, Elder Mo also agreed in his reply. Indeed, no matter how many times I come here, it's always breathtaking. At this moment, Nanhui Ren couldn't help but mumble a sentence. I remember we used to have a duel arena this big too. Before he could finish, Qi from behind revealed a sinister expression and called Nanhui Ren's name, giving him a bad feeling. As expected, he pointed at the statue in front of them and calmly said, Take me up to this stone statue. Hearing this, Nanhui Ren's jaw dropped in disbelief. Bro, what the hell are you joking about? He tried to explain to Li Qiye that even a glance would tell you this was a sacred artifact of the 9, St. Demon Gate climbing. On it recklessly was no different from seeking death. Li Qiye, however, acted unconcerned and took the opportunity to remind Nanhui Ren of their deal. Don't forget, for this 1 month, I can order you around as I please. However, the cowardly Nanhui Ren was still afraid that if he offended the 9 St. Demon Gate, he wouldn't survive for more than a month. As he finished speaking, he kowtowed and said, Senior brother, if you want me to die, you might as well just kill me directly. Seeing this, Li Qiye didn't know what else to say. His lips twitched in frustration. So boring, such a coward. Fortunately, Elder Mo placed a hand on his shoulder and said, Li Qiye, spare Nanhui Ren. Li Qiye gave Elder Mo a cold glance, thinking the elder also wanted to stop him. He told Elder Mo not to even think about stopping him. Today, he was determined to climb it. However, contrary to his expectations, Elder Mo had no intention of stopping Qian. In fact, he believed that satisfying the chief disciple's request to the best of his ability was one of his duties. With that, he directly swung his arm with great force, accurately throwing Li Qian onto the stone statue, helping him land gently on its shoulder. As soon as he set foot on the statue, Li Qian couldn't hide his excitement. Once settled, he said the elder was much more open-minded than Nan Huairen and didn't forget to sincerely thank Elder Mo. Below, Nan Huairen saw his master so easily agree to Li Qian's request. His face was full of worry as he kept asking his master, "Are you crazy? Why would you help Li Qian do something that offends people like this?" But Elder Mo actually had his own reasons. He sighed and said to his beloved disciple, "The 9 Saint Demon Gate doesn't treat us as guests. Do we still need to be polite to them?" Witnessing all the reckless actions of Li Qian's group, a disciple of the 9 Saint Demon Gate angrily shouted for people to come. "Someone, the people from the Cleansing Incense ancient sect are disrespecting our sacred statue." Elder Mo's face was still bright with an excited smile, knowing a good show was about to start. As for the big coward, Nan Huairen standing beside him, tears were now streaming down his face in 2 lines, thinking, "This is it. We're done for." Immediately, many more disciples of the 9 Saint Demon Gate swarmed in to insult Li Qian. They shouted and cursed him, calling him a half-breed from the Cleansing Incense ancient sect. Being cursed with such insulting words by so many people, an ordinary person would have lost their temper long ago and rushed into combat with this crowd. But Li Qian was, of course, no ordinary person. Not only was he not angry in the slightest, but he even put his hands on his hips and laughed loudly, continuously provoking the disciples. From high above, he shouted down that the disciples below were like dogs that don't bite, but love to bark wildly. Suddenly, Li Qian felt a sharp killing intent approaching him. At that moment, a disciple from the 9 Saint Demon Gate flew out of nowhere, aggressively pointing his sword at him, repeatedly saying, "Li Qian, go to hell." This person was none other than Du Yuanguang, a disciple known as the Little Genius of the 9 Saint Demon Gate's outer sect. It seemed this guy was here to avenge his companion who had been taught a lesson by him back at the Cleansing Incense ancient sect. Watching his opponent, one man with one sword flying towards him, Li Qian curled his lip in contempt. Not only did he not bother to dodge, but he also didn't forget to mock Du Yuanguang, asking if he was a flying dog. Just as the tip of the sword was about to pierce Li Qian, a flash of orange-red light shot out, blocking the space between the two. It was Elder Mo who had arrived just in time and used his shield to block Du Yuanguang's previous attack. With his duty, he certainly couldn't let Li Qian be killed here. Both sides landed on the ground. This strike, having failed, Du Yuanguang landed with a face clearly showing extreme anger at being interrupted. As for our protagonist, he was carried down from the stone statue by Elder Mo, his face showing a triumphant and happy smile like a child's. At this moment, the two sides were in a standoff, glaring at each other with unfriendly eyes, standing on either side of Nan Huairen. Finally, Li Qian spoke aggressively. "First, what's wrong? Still want to fight?" Poor Nan Huairen, he was the one standing in the middle bearing all the pressure. All he could do was cry and complain to the heavens about how miserable it was to be with these two. Li Qian Du Yuanguang was so angry he could vomit blood. He still couldn't accept the fact that his younger brother had been dealt with by the brat in front of him. Wrinkles bunched up between his eyebrows, clearly showing his frustration. He was filled with resentment and bitterness. "First you caused my brother's death and then you disrespected our sect's sacred artifact. Today I must kill you to protect the dignity of my 9 Saint Demon Gate." Du Yuanguang was determined that Li Qian must pay this blood debt. No matter how much he talked, the words lingering in Li Qian's ears meant nothing. It only made him more irritated. Li Qian tilted his head with a confused expression. "Who are you talking about?" Du Yuanguang roared, his eyes filled with bloodshot veins. "My name is Du Yuanguang, and Du Ming, whose cultivation you crippled at the Cleansing Incense ancient sect, is my biological younger brother." The disciples of the 9 Saint Demon Gate present began to chatter among themselves. "I heard senior brother Du Ming's cultivation was crippled at the Cleansing Incense ancient sect. It was this brat who killed senior brother Du Ming. He can't even be a man anymore. How pitiful." Oh, it was him." Li Qian seemed to vaguely remember, but his face showed no hint of remorse, ignoring the slander. "This is great, pissing off Du Yuanguang. This kid wouldn't have enough lives to pay for it. Despicable brat. He must have used some trick. Expose him quickly." Du Yuanguang's face turned ashen. "What's wrong, scared? Even if you have protectors today, I will still kill you. No one can stop me." Du Yuanguang's face gradually became strange. His smile slowly lost its humanity. "However, if you kneel and kowtow and apologize 3 times to my brother, I might consider letting you die a swift death. Yuanguang, do not be rude to our guest." Suddenly, an unexpected voice interrupted everything. "Master, it was Yu He and Tu Han, the 2 protectors of the 9 Saint Demon Gate. Esteemed Li Qian is the chief disciple of the Cleansing Incense ancient sect. He is not someone you can challenge." Tu Han was no pushover either. He stared intently at Li Qian's group and added sarcastically, "Besides, the man has almost no cultivation. Aren't you just bullying him by challenging him to a duel?" The elder Huairen and Li Qian felt a bit guilty. "So we've been seen." The disciples of the 9 Saint Demon Gate couldn't help but laugh when they heard this. They started pointing and laughing at the Cleansing Incense group. The chief disciple of the Cleansing Incense ancient sect is a good-for-nothing with no cultivation, so humiliating. How can someone like this be a chief disciple? The cleansing incense. Ancient sect should just disband already like this, and he still wants to marry the princess. Truly, a toad lusting after a swan's flesh. Li Qie laughed in response. Protector Shu really knows how to talk to. Yuan Guang is it Li Qie accepts the challenge right here on this duel stage with no regard for life or death. He wanted to prove his strength to this crowd. At this moment in the arena, all eyes were focused. No one wanted to miss the match between senior brother Yuan Guang and that Li Qie. The two main characters of the match were in their combat stances, each holding their own weapon, a saber and a sword, ready to clash. Li Qie, I don't care if you have cultivation or not, but you killed my brother Du Yuanguang will definitely kill you. Li Qie sighed. Du Yuanguang, you've said that over and over again. Is the 9 Saint Demon Gate only full of good-for-nothings who are good at talking? The disciples of the 9 Saint Demon Gate below the stage cheered deafeningly. Their words added fuel to the fire. This bastard is so arrogant. Senior brother, do kill him. Killing him directly is too good for him. He must be chopped into 100 pieces. Chop off his limbs, make him a cripple for life. In his heart, Protector 2 now secretly despised Li Qie. Although he didn't say it out loud, he was confident enough to know which way this match would go. It saves me the trouble. This kid won't even live until the examination. The elder and Nan Huairen below the stage began to worry. The three of them versus the entire 9 Saint Demon Gate sect. They were likely at a disadvantage. This isn't good. It's not convenient to intervene with words on the arena. Master Huairen is afraid that Li Qie's arrogance will lead to his disqualification. However, if he's targeted by weapons on the arena, Li Qie might not necessarily lose. Du Yuanguang with a fiery aura rushed forward with his sword. He wanted to immediately cut off Li Qie's back-talking mouth. Surprisingly, he realized that aura wasn't just for show. It seemed Li Qie had also been trained in martial arts. But in an instant, Du Yuanguang noticed a clear opening on the left shoulder. Then I won't be polite anymore. He stabbed directly at Li Qie's left shoulder, pushing him to the very edge of the stage in front of everyone. Such swift swordsmanship as expected of senior brother Yuanguang. Good kill, that half-breed. Du Yuanguang's nose flared with pride. It seems Li Qie is just a name. The elder and Huairen grew anxious. Qie couldn't be allowed to die here. If the enemy used a dangerous move, Elder Mo would definitely intervene. No, I'm afraid. What Master is worried about isn't this. Nan Huairen suddenly remembered the words Li Qie had said during practice. You ask why? My strange gate saber art can defeat you. Indeed, no matter how he thought about it. Huairen couldn't understand the wonder within it. Li Qie didn't look very old, but there were things he knew clearly. It's fine. This is something a disciple of the ancient sect should know. Legend has it that when immortal Emperor Min Ren founded the Cleansing Incense ancient sect, he modified a large number of immortal cultivation manuals and the strange gate saber art hidden in the Cleansing Incense. Ancient sect was the very version that immortal Emperor Min Ren himself had carefully considered and refined. What Nan Huairen was stunned, that's right. That fierce martial world saber technique, in Min Ren's hands, became an unfathomably versatile strange gate martial art. Such a precious secret manual, yet no one paid it any mind. It truly made one feel great regret. Li Qie recognized the ancient sect's strange gate saber art. It was incredibly profound. By the time Nan Huairen returned to reality, Li Qie was already counterattacking. He demonstrated just once, wanting Huairen to realize the wonder of the strange gate saber art. Suddenly, enlightenment dawned, using weakness to defeat strength. Li Qie flashed past like the wind. The tip of his saber sliced through Du Yuanguang, splitting him into two. The cut was so fast, so decisive. Blood began to spurt out, soon forming a large pool. It was horrifying. Du Yuanguang died instantly. Everyone was stunned, but perhaps the most shocked were the two protectors of the 9 Saint Demon Gate. Who else? Li Qie yanked out the sword Du Yuanguang had stabbed into his left shoulder and tossed it aside. Feel free to come at me. Qie's eyes were filled with danger. Those arrogant people who looked down on him would all meet the same end as the two Du brothers. The two halves of Du Yuanguang's body were soon submerged in their own pool of blood. His brain, with nowhere to go, was forcefully expelled onto the ground. That scene made even Elder Mo and Nan Huairen tremble. Was it really necessary to be so cruel? Li Qie, you dare seeing their disciple defeated in a single move was something Yu Hu and Tu Hon could not accept. The two of them, united in anger, looked as if they wanted to eat Qie alive. Elder Mo sensed danger and flew up to shield Li Qie. Tu Hon Yu He on a duel stage, where life and death are not considered. Have you forgotten even this basic rule? Yu He sneered in response. Matters on the duel stage, my 9 Saint Demon Gate will naturally accept. But for you to act so cruelly and viciously, aren't you afraid of our disciples coming for revenge? The reaction from the disciples became more intense. They began to show no respect. You with the surname Li, I must duel you. If you have the guts, fight me, and me too, you thing. Voices echoed across the sky, dark clouds rolled in from nowhere, and lightning struck repeatedly, as if some great expert was undergoing a tribulation. A familiar, overwhelming aura gradually appeared in the void. Ah, it's the Great Elder. The two protectors and all the disciples immediately bowed. We respectfully welcome the Great Elder. Du Yuanguang's death in the duel was due to his inferior cultivation. The disciples are forbidden from causing any more trouble. As for you, Li Qie, your personality is ferocious. This sect does not welcome you. Quickly heal your wounds, participate in the trial, and then leave my 9 Saint Demon Gate as soon as possible. Li Qie was not afraid. You don't need to remind me. Hurry up and arrange that trial or whatever. This 9 Saint Demon Gate, I'm too lazy to stay here anyway. Hearing this, Yuhi gave a calculating smile. Since you won't give yourself time to rest, don't blame my 9 Saint Demon Gate for not showing you respect. The first test, the Forest of Turbulent Hearts. Everyone move quickly to the trial location. The Forest of Turbulent Hearts was personally established by the ancestor Great Sage 9 Saints to temper the minds of the disciples of the 9 Saint Demon Gate. The Forest of Turbulent Hearts has a total of 14 stone tablets. With each step forward, the difficulty of the trial increases. Entering the Forest of Turbulent Hearts is like entering one's own inner demons, a chaotic dance of demons, 1,000 cuts and 10,000 slices. Although it is an illusion, it is incredibly real. Those affected will lose their minds. In severe cases, their own bodies will even turn against them, directly tearing their flesh apart. If your strength is insufficient, you must withdraw quickly, or you will be controlled by your inner demons. Yuha looked confident, still unable to shake his arrogant habit. The Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect is after all a righteous sect with a long history. We hope not to see your esteemed chief disciple in a disgraceful state. Li Che didn't like to drag things out. I know. Let's start already. He directly called for their princess or whoever to come and compete with him. Are you worthy? The mention of this stirred Tu-Han's masculine pride against the princess. Li Che doesn't stand a chance. You may not fear death, but my 9 Saint Demon Gate still fears others, saying we bully the weak. Let me fight a match with you. You finally remembered you're a great and prestigious sect, have you? However, a small protector like you, if you lose, don't try to deny it. Kie's provocative look made Tu-Han's blood boil. Li Kie, you will pay the price for your arrogance. Watch closely. Tu-Han rode the wind and flew straight towards the Forest of Turbulent Hearts, then gently set foot on the first step. The disciples began to cheer. Protector 2 is on many years ago, when Tu-Han was still my senior brother. He had already reached the 5th stage, said a disciple from the same generation who knew a bit about Protector 2's former strength. He looks even more seasoned than Great Protector Yu. Shh, don't let people hear you. 2 disciples began to whisper. He's just a bit older, but he's already on the verge of reaching the Flower Canopy realm. So amazing. Oh, so Protector 2 has a chance to reach the 8th step. Look quickly. He's already broken through the 5th step and is about to reach the 6th. Step. The first few steps seemed to pose no obstacle until Tu-Han set foot on the 6th. The significant difference forced his body to tense up. Now even the smallest movement made it difficult for him to walk. Tu-Han didn't dare to groan. He only dared to let out a few grunts due to his pride. The Forest of Turbulent Hearts is this terrifying as the 6th step my limit. How can I give up so easily? Tu-Han didn't allow himself to stop. He gritted his teeth, endured, and gathered 70% of his power to leap to the 7th step. He arrived. The illusions began to clear. It was like a hell full of death zombies. The living dead and white skeletons rushed at him one after another. Tu-Han didn't want to be buried in this troublesome illusion. He wanted to risk it all, using his full power to break the illusion and leap to the 7th step. 7th. So good. He's on the 7th step, as expected of senior brother 2. Tu-Han was out of breath. He had no strength left to speak, sweat pouring down his face. Although Li Kie stood far away, he could still recognize what trick Tu-Han had used to reach the 7th step. Fool. The Forest of Turbulent Hearts tests one's Dao heart. Yet you dare to use martial force to break through. That will only result in a greater backlash, as Jie had predicted in an instant. Tu-Han was repelled by the Forest of Turbulent Hearts, sending him flying back to the starting point. Protector. 2, are you all right? The crowd gathered to ask. Tu-Han couldn't accept that his limit was here. He hadn't expected to underestimate the power of this Forest of Turbulent Hearts. He couldn't even step onto the 8th step. Tu-Han was in both physical and mental pain. Fortunately, Protector Yu He and the disciples cheered him on relentlessly. Senior brother 2, you've worked hard. Protector 2, you are the best. Tu-Han, well done. With more cultivation in the future, you have a chance to be promoted to elder. Hearing Yu He say this, he lifted his head, his face brightening up. Thank you, great protector. Next, it's Li Chie's turn. Seeing them like that made Li Chie unable to hold back a laugh. Not bad. He approached and looked down. At your age, being able to reach the 7th step in the True Fate realm is already a great effort. Maintain this strength, and before you die, you might be able to break through to the Flower Canopy realm. Tu-Han was speechless. Protector Yu. He couldn't take it anymore. Protector Shu's turn is over. How much longer do you want us to wait for you? Akie burst out laughing, with your face tilted to the sky. It made Nan Huairen's heart sink. I thought you were waiting for the guy on the ground to stop breathing. Huairen didn't have time to cover Chi's mouth. Oh well, as long as you're happy. Yu He refused to be outdone. He retorted without backing down. Are you just all talk and don't dare to take the trial? Li Chie maintained his composure. He believed it was Tu-Han's good fortune to go first. Otherwise, if I went straight through all 14 steps, he wouldn't have any face left to live. Isn't that very reasonable? Being mocked like this by a brat of unknown strength was more than Tu-Han could bear. Despite being seriously injured, having his self-esteem trampled by Li Chie made him want to risk his worthless life to end this Protector Yu. He quickly intervened. Ignore him? How can I ignore him? As a protector of the 9, Saint Demon Gate being talked down to by an outsider, should a savage who only cultivates martial arts like you dares to boast like that? Since you have such a death wish, do you dare to bet with me? Li Chie found this guy really interesting. He actually dared to make a bet with the condition that if he couldn't complete all 14 steps, he would have to kneel and crawl through Tu-Han's legs. Fine, I'll bet with you. Li Jie accepted the bet immediately, without any hesitation. His face darkened as he continued. If I complete them all, will you have to crawl through my legs too? Tu-Han was immediately very smug. Today, let's see how the chief disciple of the cleansing incense ancient sect kneels and crawls through someone else's legs. Li Jie didn't hesitate and stepped forward, telling him to just wait and see. A long time later, they were still watching Li Jie just standing there. A fat guy ran over and asked, "What's the situation now?" The other guy looked dejected. "Don't mention it. It's already been an hour. That kid is still just standing there frozen on the first step." Hearing this, they became very smug. No way. The esteemed chief disciple can't even take a single step. Hey you, from the cleansing incense ancient sect. If you don't have the ability, don't waste everyone's time. Hearing them say that Nan Huai-Ren grumbled unhappily. Do the disciples of the Nine Saint Demon Gate only have this much patience? Chirp chirp so noisy it's deadly. Although he said that Nan Huai-Ren was also extremely worried. But I also don't know if Li Jie has a way to deal with this kind of strange trial. At this time the protagonist still stood motionless. His eyes tightly closed while countless eyes stared at him. A moment later Li Jie's eyes snapped open. He looked at them. His face completely relaxed as he moved forward. Seeing this, the disciples of the Nine Saint Demon Gate also boredly said, "He's moving now." Finally. He watched Li Jie's back and said, "He's finally moving. I thought he was going to sleep there. Maybe he's afraid of losing too badly and is preparing to risk his life." But only he noticed something. Something's not right. His state is too relaxed. Could it be he really has a trick up his sleeve? Li Jie walked casually, humming a tune as he went until he reached the third step. He looked at the flames in front of him and gave a bored, surprised look. Fire. Not a bit of creativity. The flames blazed fiercely, the heat intensifying, but it still didn't cause Jie the slightest harm. All the chains and pulls of the illusion still had no effect on him. 456. No matter how formidable or terrifying the illusion was, Jie remained completely unshaken. Get out! The skeletal warriors, recognizing his overwhelming power, hastily retreated and vanished. Very quickly, Li Jie reached the seventh step, the limit of Protector Tu-Hon. Next, he wanted the people of the Nine Saint Demon Gate to open their eyes. Although they didn't know what was happening in the eyes of Elder Mo and Huai-Ren, Jie was an incredibly amazing person. What are you mumbling about? Making a mountain out of a molehill. Li Jie turned his head to look back. Behind him, the aura of the protagonist in this bet slowly emanated. The disciples of the Nine Saint Demon Gate refused to accept it. Impossible. How can he walk so easily? Cheating. He must be cheating. They refused to accept defeat and blamed everything on the cleansing incense ancient sect shameless cheating. The piercing shouts in his ears enraged Yu He. He screamed at the disciples, "Shut up. The forest of turbulent hearts is an object that tests one's Tao heart. What kind of cheating trick in this world could control one's Tao heart? Wanting to cheat here is fundamentally impossible. Could it be that this guy's Tao heart is that firm? He told himself. No rush. After the first 7 steps, the power of the illusion will increase. Even a little bit of doubt will render it all useless. He absolutely cannot complete all 14 steps. No matter what anyone slandered or thought, Li Jie kept walking, just as Protector Yu. He thought with each step, the illusion intensified. It struck at the depths of humanity. Power, martial strength, beauty, wealth, each one very alluring. Exploiting any opening, the illusion would suddenly attack, catching the opponent off guard. But Li Jie was different. He was unshaken and completely unharmed by anything. Shaken my ass. It's hilarious. Li Jie found it truly ridiculous. This isn't worthy of me, is that all? Li Jie watched the illusion before him gradually dissipate. He clicked his tongue, mocking that old chicken head's toys were all so tasteless. The great chief protector of the Nine Saint Demon Gate stood there, flanked by the protector, and a group of disciples from the Nine Saint Demon Gate. It was true. The entire sect turned pale, standing there dumbfounded, looking on in utter disbelief. How could Li Jie possibly complete all 14 steps in one go without a scratch? The whole crowd stammered in unison. 14 steps, he completed all 14 steps. Jie emerged from the 14 stages. Nan Huai-Ren joyfully shouted, "Senior brother, you're magnificent. At first, when you didn't move, I thought you were done for." He walked out with a leisurely gait. His initial pause was a deliberate tease for the Nine Saint Demon Gate sect. I had to give Great Protector 2 some time to mentally prepare. Li Jie, with his red eyes, curled his lip into a smile and asked, "Great Protector 2, do you still remember our bet?" "Great." Protector 2's face darkened. The 2 horns on his forehead stood out. His eyes rolled back, and he gritted his teeth in anger. Jie laughed mockingly. Forget it. How could a hero like me bother with someone like Tu-Hon? Ha ha ha." He added another sarcastic smile. Tu-Hon lowered his head in anger, his heart filled with hatred. Protector Yu looked at Tu-Hon, then politely congratulated Chief Li on passing the first trial. To be the chief disciple of the cleansing incense ancient sect, it seems you truly have some ability. He waved his hand dismissively. Skip this polite greeting. Hurry up and arrange the next round. Yu-He smiled slyly. The second round of testing is a trial of martial strength, Jie asked. Martial strength? I've already killed 2 of your great disciples. Do you want me to cripple a few more before you're satisfied? Yu-He shouted angrily. Insolent, I am your opponent. With an ally, Tu-Han became emboldened and said, You relied on some unorthodox dark arts to defeat those other disciples. You've gotten too full of yourself. Do you dare to fight me, Tu-hon? Li Jie laughed at his arrogance. Ha ha, the face of a loser is truly thicker than a golden core mattress. Yuha heard Tu-hon ask for another chance to fight Chi get out. If we lose another match, what kind of situation will my 9-Saint Demon Gate be in? Tu-hon was certain that this time he would definitely not lose. The second round of testing began still with Tu-hon fighting Li Jie. On the icy arena, the surface was glossy and slippery. Kie's small figure faced the tall Tu-honin. The middle was Yu-He as the referee, and the disciples behind gathered to watch this tense match. Tu-hon pointed his sharp large saber at Li Jie and said, "Stinking brat, where are your dual sabers? Bring out your weapon." He grinned, still confident, with no intention of using a weapon. He said, "Who told you I wanted to use a saber technique again? To deal with you, a firewood stick is enough." He pulled the wooden stick from his belt. Yuha looked at the stick in his hand, thinking to himself, this is the stick that crippled Duming. He used his heavenly eye to see what was inside this stick, but it only disappointed him further. He said, "What? There's no trace of immortal arts imbued in it. I don't see any mechanical structure. It really is just a tattered piece of wood." Tu-hon's eyes widened as he ran towards Chie. Holding a long saber wanting to attack, he shouted as he ran, "Let me show you the gap between our realms." Li Jie stood proudly in place, letting him come. He used a flash step to get behind him, bringing down a fatal slash from above, wanting to sneak attack his head. Chie's eyes widened. With just one move, poking the stick behind the nape of his own neck, he blocked the path of the large saber. The 10-foot-tall Tu-hon was shocked by that move. Just a small action, and the rebound from the tip of the stick sent him flying backward. His jaw dropped as he said, "How could this be?" He still couldn't figure out what was happening. Li Jie looked at Tu-hon with half-closed eyes, a contemptuous smile on his lips. For the 10-foot-tall man, a simple move had blocked his fatal blow. "The gap you Tu-hon spoke of, it's not a gap in boasting ability, is it?" Tu-hon's face turned pale. It was still the same, gritting, angry, but helpless expression. He couldn't do anything to Chiol. He could do was curse. He still couldn't understand how Li Jie could directly strike the weakest point in his attack stance. His hand still struggled to hold the saber, but in reality, it was trembling uncontrollably. His entire arm was going numb too. Han comforted himself. "I must be calm, use all my strength for one more move." Still confident in his true fate realm cultivation, he was sure he would not lose. At this moment, Tu-hon's legs transformed into a purple streak of light that extended like a snake's tail. His upper body remained human, while his lower body coiled like a glowing tail. Another slash from above came down on the standing Li Jie. It's unclear what speed or skill Jie used, but as soon as Tu-hon slashed down, he had already used a block to press the saber down. The saber slashed diagonally. He blocked diagonally. A horizontal slash, a horizontal block. He gathered his strength for one slash, but he swung his stick and knocked the saber right out of Tu-hon's hand. The disciples of the 9-Saint Demon Gate stood with their mouths agape and eyes wide. They were frozen, watching Protector Tu-hon being so dominated he couldn't even execute a single move. Even the saber in his hand was knocked away by a wooden stick. Tu-hon collapsed. His face darkened. He was in complete shock. He panted heavily, unable to believe it. He couldn't believe what had just happened in the match. Protector Yu angrily scolded this Tu-hon useless. "You're useless. Do you want to destroy our sect?" Tu-hon knelt before Yu, her great protector. "Rest assured, I still haven't used my true abilities." Yu-he shouted at him, "What are you kneeling for? We're still in a match." Nan Huairen and Elder Mo stood outside watching the show. Huairen asked Master Mo, "I don't understand no matter how I look at it. It's clear that Tu-hon initiated the attack on Senior Brother, but no matter how I look at it, he's the one being continuously pushed back." Elder Mo said firmly to Huairen, "It's definitely because your Senior Brother is a genius." Huairen immediately retorted, "Didn't you just say he had a mortal physique and mortal fate like rotten wood that can't be carved?" Tu-hon was still there in disbelief. It's impossible. He wondered what trick Chie had actually used. Why does every move strike the force point of his attack? Li Jie held the stick and lightly tapped his own hand, tapping his foot to the rhythm. "Haha, you don't even understand something. It's simple. I advise you to surrender quickly." The scene shifts back to the ancient era. In a dense forest, a type of strange serpent lurks. Encountering this kind of strange serpent, even cultivators who have reached the true fate or flower canopy realm would find it difficult to escape death. To be precise, it was a giant snake. Its forehead was green, and its snake body was grayish-brown, with 2 limbs like small bat wings spread on either side of its forehead, 4 sharp fangs and a long, slithering tongue. Under the snake's body were 1,000 human skulls. This demon serpent must have lived for many years, having eaten countless innocent people. However, few knew that in this dense forest, there was another type of monstrous tree. It specialized in feeding on these strange serpents. Therefore, the monstrous tree's strength was greater than the serpent's shepherd. No, that's not right. The key secret to the monstrous tree's hunting and killing all relied on that strange branch of its. It could precisely lock onto the strange serpent's attacks. The monstrous tree had a trunk as massive as a 1,000-year-old ancient tree. It was rough, dark, with no visible leaves or fruit. There was only the massive trunk and sharp branches sticking out in all directions. There were 2 things right in the middle of the trunk that looked like nostrils. A black sticky fluid dripped from the nostrils. A little below it was a large hole that looked like a huge mouth. That pitch-black mouth had sharp points sticking out like teeth dripping with blood. Part of it was also due to the sharp spear-like branch that had pierced through the head of that giant strange serpent. The monstrous tree's roots were long and winding, wrapped around the body of the strange serpent. It rendered it unable to resist. Even if it fought back, it was useless, because the numerous roots had tightened around it, just as its own snake body had once squeezed humans to death. These strange secrets were discovered by a dark crow and a giant tree. They fully utilized the branch's characteristic of automatically striking at weak points. They fashioned it into a teaching tool to instruct disciples and named it the snake-beating stick. That dark crow was none other than the dark crow, the black bird of that day. Before reaching the heavenly primal realm, Min-Ren had no strength to resist the snake-beating stick. Min-Ren once had to run for his life from the snake-beating stick, which looked like a rotten black log and was beaten until his head swelled into 3 red buns. So it was nothing to use the snake-beating stick to teach a lesson to a mere true fate realm. Junior. Naturally, it was no problem at all. Li Qie smirked on one side. Are you done thinking Tu-Han surrender and you'll be spared death? He let out a cold snort. Tu-Han now realized that it's the snake-beating staff. He cursed under his breath. That bastard Chi playing with a tricky weapon, huh? Now I'll show you my true power. His true strength. Tu-Han's hands grew larger, sprouting claws as his veins bulged. His face contorted. His yellow eyes shifted to the sides of his head, and his pale green skin looked like snake scales. 4 venomous fangs protruded, and a long forked tongue slithered out, split at the tip. Now he looked exactly like a snake, his limbs resembling those of a reptile. Enraged, Tu-Han transformed and roared furiously at Li Qie. You've humiliated me time and again. Now I'll make you pay 100-fold. At that moment, Li Qie was caught off guard, stunned for a moment as he wondered. A beast? A half-serpent? Outside, Manhwa Ren was just as surprised. He said to the person next to him, It's over. Tu-Han is actually a half-demon. Senior brother is scared stiff too. In contrast to Manhwa Ren's surprise, Elder Mo calmly continued, a hint of amusement on his face. A half-demon can demonize itself, gaining immense power. Li Qie, you must hold on. The half-demon that Tu-Han transformed into looked a bit less impressive than expected, with his wide eyes and lolling tongue. Raising his hand as if to scratch someone, the scene truly resembled a baby bird, but with an unstable mind. Then he confidently declared, My father is a golden-lined demon serpent. In this half-demon state, my power is enhanced. You've already lost. Witnessing this, Li Qie couldn't help but let out a snort of laughter. The half-demon saw this and looked on, blankly confused. Li Qie looked at him simultaneously, worried for his life. You could have turned into anything, but you chose a serpent demon. This time, you're about to lose your life. As he spoke, he held the divine staff out in front of him, but his body had started trembling uncontrollably. The half-demon saw this and laughed heartily, mocking. Scared to the point of trembling, yet as he spoke he lunged towards Li Qie, his long neck stretching out as he was about to strike. You still want to brag? Li Qie still stood there holding the staff, his whole body trembling as if caught in a cold northeastern wind. Outside, Manhwa Ren could no longer stand still and shouted, Danger, Elder. Mo next to him maintained his composure, but a drop of sweat trickled down. The gang members of Protector 2 were cheering enthusiastically outside. One shouted, Bite him to death. Another yelled, Kill him, Protector 2. His body was still trembling, but there was something off about Brother Li's expression. His eyes darkened as he muttered, Idiot. As the half-demon charged the staff in Li Qie's hand, shot straight up under its jaw with a thud. Even through the screen, I could feel the pain for him. The half-demon spat out a mouthful as Li Qie declared, The one trembling is not me. The snake-beating staff gets overly excited when it sees its prey. I can't control it right now. After the staff was swung, correcting our earlier misunderstanding that Li Qie was trembling, it was now the half-demon who was shaking. I told you, you were about to lose your life. I really pity you. Thud. A loud noise erupted as the half-demon fell to the ground. Li Qie sneered, glancing at Protector Yu, and said, Hey, this should settle the winner and loser right. Protector Yu's face darkened, and he gritted his teeth without replying. It was a joyous scene as Manhwa Ren raised an arm, cheering, We won. Elder Mo praised, Well done, Li Qie. In another place, someone angrily shouted, Yu-He, do you have any idea what the consequences will be if something goes wrong with this marriage trial? The demon below hesitated. My lord demon emperor, if you truly make our sect a laughingstock, then for the rest of your life, I fear you will live in misery. It was you. He imagining the scene of being questioned by the demon emperor. He scowled, gritting his teeth and thinking, Damn it. He silently cursed Tu-Han. You actually lost to a mere martial arts practitioner. He glanced back at Li Qie, who was wiping the staff, and cursed silently. After an internal struggle, he resolved to kill Li Qie at all costs. He said, This won't do. His hand was moving, preparing some kind of attack. If I let him marry the princess, my 9-saint demon gate will surely become a laughingstock, the crime of humiliating the sect. How am I supposed to bear that I'll kill him here and then kill that useless master and disciple pair, driven by the shame of defeat? He resentfully decided to launch a sneak attack. As Li Qie walked towards Huairen and called out to him, Huairen cheerfully replied from outside, Yeah, unaware that behind Li Qie, Protector Yu had conjured a small, sharp piece of ice in his palm. The two of them, Li Qie and his companion, were still happily chatting outside. Li Qie told Huairen, Wipe this staff clean for me later. Hearing this, Manhwa Ren happily agreed. Okay, I'm the best at cleaning, Elder Mo said. All the clothes in the sect are laundered by Huai-Ren. Meanwhile, Protector Yu was still overthinking. By then, the truth will naturally be explained by my 9-saint sect as we see fit. Then I'll still have a chance to live. Finishing his thought, he hurled the object in his hand towards Li Qie's back, yelling, "Go to hell!" The object from Yu He's hand was about to hit Li Qie when a rock fell from nowhere and shattered it, leaving him dumbfounded and wondering, where did that rock come from? Hearing the noise behind him, Li Qie turned around. He immediately understood everything, a storm of fury rising as he angrily said, "Trying to sneak attack me again. This is the second time." His plan so close to success being foiled, Protector Yu flew into a rage and roared, "Who did it?" Looking to the side, he saw the stone statue of the saintly lord seem to move, startling him into a cry. The saintly lord, Li Qie, sneered. "It seems even the ancestors can't stand it anymore." The stone statue continued to move, causing everyone below to become suspicious. Did the stone statue look like this before Elder Mo said? Nan Huai-Ren was so shocked his eyes were wide open. Don't tell me it's moving on its own. A scene that shook heaven and earth. The tremor made everyone terrified. Some soldiers, frightened by the statue's movement, stammered. "The giant statue, it's alive." The stone statue lifted a foot and took a step, causing all the soldiers to kneel and chant in unison. "The saintly lord has awakened. Ancestors, protect us. Ancestors, protect us." Protector Yu trembled in fear and said, "The guardian saint statue. Why, saintly lord, how could you protect that waste?" Li Qie, impossible. As he finished, he also fell to his knees in stunned terror. The stone statue made a creaking sound. It raised a hand, surprising Protector Yu, who then suddenly burst into loud laughter. Ha 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 ha. The statue's giant hand reached straight for Yu, he as if to grab him. A loud smack rang out. The massive stone hand had crushed Protector Yu, making everyone around tremble in fear. Some people stammered, It's out of control." Everyone fled in terror. The sound of frantic footsteps filled the air, shouts of, "The stone statue is out of control." Run were heard. In a corner, Li Qie sat leisurely on the statue's foot, smirking as he spoke to Nan Huai-Ren. "Look at these descendants scared out of their wits," Nan Huai-Ren said doubtfully. Senior brother Nan Huai-Ren and Elder Mo asked at the same time. Nan Huai-Ren wondered. "This couldn't possibly be your doing too, right?" Elder Mo asked. "What on earth is going on?" Li Qie didn't answer yet. He recalled jumping onto the back of the statue's neck to find the password to activate it. He answered them. "That's right. As long as you know the password, you can command these guardian stone statues." The answer made Nan Huai-Ren look horrified and asked doubtfully, "Such a thing exists?" Li Qie replied. "If they had kept to the boundaries of a great sect, it would have been fine. But now this 9-saint demon gate doesn't play by the rules. In that case, let's annihilate them." As he spoke, Li Qie gave a demonic sneer, a dark glint appearing in his eyes. Just as Li Qie finished saying he wanted to annihilate the 9-saint demon gate, the saint statue's fist rose high, about to smash down and crush the crowd. But just then, thunder and lightning suddenly appeared in the sky and someone leaped down from above. Without a word, he immediately threw giant chains to bind the saint statue's arm. Then, with just one hand, he successfully suppressed the statue, forcing it to its knees. In the eyes of Nan Huai-Ren and Elder Mo, this scene was incredibly formidable. But to Li Qie, it was like showing off in front of an expert. The useless disciples below, having just escaped death, breathed a sigh of relief and said, "A master has arrived." Just then, a majestic voice echoed from the sky. It was the sect master of the 9-saint demon gate, or rather the sun-revolving demon emperor who had sent a doppelganger. The old demon emperor pleaded with Li Qie to stop saying that they could discuss anything calmly. After hearing this, Li Qie just sneered in response. "Demon emperor, huh? You don't even dare to show your true self." At this, the demon emperor's voice continued to echo. He admitted his sect's fault, then told Li Qie to calm the saint statue first, and then come to his hall for a cup of tea and a chat. Hearing this, Li Qie agreed without hesitation. He smiled, putting on an extremely magnanimous expression, and said, "All right then, out of respect for you, I'll spare these people." Standing behind Nan Huai-Ren was dumbfounded when he heard Li Qie agree to meet the demon emperor. Hearing him say he spared them out of respect for the demon emperor, he blurted out, "In the end, who's showing respect to whom?" Later, in the deepest part of the 9-saint demon gate, which was the demon emperor's celestial hall, Li Qie sat alone facing the demon emperor, completely unafraid. In fact, he adopted an arrogant posture with a smirk that showed he looked down on everyone. The demon emperor then began to explain that because he was in seclusion, he couldn't closely monitor the affairs below, which led to the inner sect elders making decisions on their own, creating such a mess. "I hope young Master Li can be magnanimous and forgive us." Hearing this, Li Qie immediately understood the situation. He picked up his teacup with a cunning and disdainful look. He said, "Earlier, you wanted me to get out of here, but now you're so eagerly inviting me. It must be just because I know the password to command the stone statues, right?" Seeing Li Qie so bluntly expose his true intentions, the demon emperor burst out laughing. He said he liked intelligent and quick-witted people like him the most. Then he decisively admitted his purpose was curiosity about this long-lost password of his sect. It is known that the 9-saint demon gate has 4 guardian deities, which are the 4 stone statues in that arena. They were invited by the sect's founding ancestor to guard the 9-saint demon gate. Moreover, They also guard the earth veins and the natural essence located beneath the 9 Saint Demon Gates arena. However, since the sect was founded, those 4 guardian deities had never revealed any divine powers except for today. The Demon Emperor held up 4 fingers representing the 4 statues and asked Li Qiye if he knew the command passwords for all 4 of them. Li Qiye didn't hide it and frankly admitted that it was a matter of course. Hearing his firm confirmation, the Demon Emperor couldn't help but start negotiating with Li Qiye. He said that if he was willing to hand over the technique, he could guarantee to help him become the chief disciple of the 9 Saint Demon Gate and later inherit his position as the Demon Emperor to the Demon Emperor. The cleansing incense. Ancient sect was a declining ancient sect incomparable to his 9 Saint Demon Gate. He was very confident that a mortal, with a mortal physique, mortal life wheel, and mortal fate, who only cultivated martial arts like Li Qiye, could absolutely not be unmoved by this incredibly attractive offer. He thought Li Qiye would easily agree, but this time, the old Demon Emperor was bound to be disappointed. Faced with this offer, he simply took a gentle sip of tea and said that he was the chief disciple of the cleansing incense, ancient sect. Naturally, he would never betray his sect. He told the Demon Emperor to stop joking. After that, he ignored the Demon Emperor and even started appreciating the tea like a professional, praising that it was actually quite good. Seeing that he couldn't tempt Li Qiye, the old Demon Emperor quickly tried to save the situation, saying he was getting old and muddle-headed. Then he changed the subject to his marriage engagement with the beloved princess of the 9 Saint Demon Gate, Li Shuangyan. Finishing his words, he turned to the door and called for his beloved daughter to quickly enter the room and greet young Master Li, telling the 2 of them to get acquainted and cultivate their feelings first. Standing outside, Shuang'er had been listening to their conversation for some time. When she heard the Demon Emperor say he wanted her to enter the room to get acquainted with this waste of a fiancé who fell from the sky, her face turned pale. Judging by her expression and sharp gaze, she didn't seem very pleased with this marriage. Li Shuangyan recalled a time when she was strolling by the lake with her maid, enjoying the scenery. The little maid beside her was grinning, praising how beautiful the scenery was, but in response, Li Shuangyan only gave a very simple hmm. She said that no matter how beautiful the scenery was, looking at it over and over would eventually become boring, which made her maid pause. Immediately the maid's mind raced and she showered her with praise, saying that the young Mrs. World's stunning beauty was something people could look at forever without getting tired. Hearing this, Li Shuangyan dotingly said, "What a silly little maid." Then the little maid giggled innocently and added that the young miss shouldn't worry. Once she completed her marriage engagement, wouldn't she be able to travel the world with her husband? Seeing her narcissistic attitude, little Zhu's eyes sparkled with adoration as she said, "That's right. A man worthy of my young miss simply doesn't exist." As if hearing a joke, this princess sneered confidently and said, "Little Zhu, do you think there's any man in this world worthy of me?" Returning to the present story in the Celestial Hall after Li Shuangyan saw Li Qiye's gloomy beauty, her mind flared up and she exclaimed, "What the hell is this? The person in my marriage engagement is a brat like this." Before she could compose herself, the old Demon Emperor continued to urge her to quickly enter the room and meet her fiancé. Thinking of her master, she decided to put an end to all her dissatisfaction here, because she could never repay the years of appreciation and nurturing from her master. Li Shuangyan reluctantly pushed the door open and took heavy steps into the room. As she walked, she thought to herself that as the princess of the 9 Saint Demon Gate, she must consider her master's will as her mission. After Li Shuangyan entered the room, Li Qiye looked at her beauty and just gave a light smile. Suppressing all the dissatisfaction in her heart, she bowed and gently greeted him. However, this person who didn't know his place not only failed to politely greet her back, but also rudely let out a comment. "You look all right." Hearing Li Qiye's words, Li Shuangyan trembled with anger. She was the darling of the heavens, immensely favored, and she had every right to be arrogant with her beauty and strength wherever she went. She was the center of attention. The talented young men who wanted to marry her could form a long line. She fumed internally. "What do you mean, look all right? Who the hell are you?" In her heart, she was continuously cursing Li Qiye as an ignorant brat. She resolved to teach him a lesson to vent her anger. But thinking was one thing. For now, it was better to complete this marriage transaction first. So her thoughts were one thing, but her actions were another. She bowed her head, feigning gratitude, and thanked Li Qiye for his praise. Seeing the 2 of them starting to talk so harmoniously, the Demon Emperor couldn't help but eagerly get to the main point. "Little friend, you see." Before he could finish, Li Qiye cut in nonchalantly. "About this marriage engagement, I think we should just call it off." Both the old Demon Emperor and Li Shuangyan felt as if they had been struck by lightning upon hearing Li Qiye's words. The old Demon Emperor now understood that Li Qiye wasn't after power or wealth, nor did he need beauty. However, looking at him, he didn't seem like someone seeking the Tao either. He was extremely troubled, unable to figure out what his purpose was. He thought Li Qiye was feeling insecure because he was a mortal, with a mortal physique life wheel, and fate unworthy of his Shuang'er, who had peerless talent and an imperial physique. He started fabricating praises for Li Qiye, saying he saw an extraordinary aura in him, that he would surely achieve great things in the future, and was truly a good match for his Shuang'er standing beside him. Li Shuangyan's face turned crimson upon hearing this, unsure if it was from embarrassment or anger that her master would compare this waste to her. She forced a fake industrial smile, pretending to agree and continuing the Demon Emperor's words. "That's right. That's right. A husband and wife are one body, who is stronger or weaker, is just how outsiders perceive it. Her mouth said that, but inside she felt nauseous. She would never want to be husband and wife with Li Qiye. Seeing the master and disciple pair, the demon emperor and Li Shuangyan, completely misunderstanding his intentions, Li Qiye had to speak up to stop them. This time he was even more blunt, telling Li Shuangyan that he was rejecting the marriage simply because he wasn't interested in her. This statement truly enraged the little princess. Li Shuangyan was stunned for 5 seconds, unable to believe that someone in this world would not want to marry her simply because he wasn't interested. Her heart truly exploded at that moment. She just wanted to tear him into 100 pieces. The old demon emperor didn't notice Shuangger standing motionless, like a statue beside him. He still hadn't given up, and pretending to understand, asked if Li Qiye was still dissatisfied with the recent trial. He tried to explain that he knew nothing about it, and that it was all decided by the sect's elders. The 9 Saint Demon Gate would come to apologize, but canceling the marriage was impossible. He asked him, "I'm afraid this isn't the will of the cleansing incense ancient sect, is it?" Li Qiye replied without hesitation, "That's right, I'm canceling this marriage on my own accord. It has nothing to do with any decision from my sect." He added that the demon emperor shouldn't bother himself with it. He pushed himself up from the floor, saying in short that was all he wanted to say. If the demon emperor had nothing else, he would take his leave. At this moment, the minds of the demon emperor and his disciple were filled with countless different thoughts. The little princess was furious, continuously cursing Li Qiye as a stinking brat. The old demon emperor had a headache, not knowing what on earth Li Qiye wanted. Only Li Qiye was satisfied, pleased to have teased these two. The demon emperor and the little princess suppressed their anger, smiled cheerfully and wished Li Qiye a safe journey, hoping to meet again later. Before leaving, Li Qiye acted as if he had just remembered something. He turned and asked the old demon emperor if he still wanted the password related to the saint statue. Hearing this, the old demon emperor was secretly overjoyed. Pretending he had forgotten, he said, "Of course I want it." He thought Li Qiye would hand over the password, but who would have guessed he would say something that stunned the master and disciple. "If you want it, have your precious princess join my cleansing incense ancient sect." Before the other two could react, he added, "The marriage may be off, but I'm still short one handmaiden." Hearing this, Li Shuangyan trembled with rage. She couldn't believe she would be so continuously disrespected. It was a great humiliation. A favored daughter of heaven like her, admired by all, was now being spoken to so arrogantly by a fledgling brat who wanted her to be his handmaiden. In Li Shuangyan's eyes at this moment, Li Qiye was utterly detestable. Outside, after returning to his room, Li Qiye recounted everything to Elder Mo and Nanhuai Ren. When they heard that Li Qiye not only wanted to cancel the marriage, but also dared to want the princess of the 9 Saint Demon Gate as his handmaiden, their minds went blank. Elder Mo just calmly asked him why Nanhuai Ren, however, couldn't be so calm. His face was pale and sweaty as he chided Li Qiye. Even being whimsical has its limits, right? Was your talk about reviving the sect just empty words? Seeing their over-the-top reaction, Li Qiye asked in return, "Do you two really think that becoming the son-in-law of the 9 Saint Demon Gate can revive our ancient sect?" He also firmly asserted, "In a few days, the princess of the 9 Saint Demon Gate will come to be a disciple of our sect. Compared to fulfilling the marriage, isn't this better?" Neither Nanhuai Ren nor Elder Mo had ever considered this before. Who could imagine the princess of one sect coming to another to be a handmaiden? The master-disciple pair. Elder Mo nodded in agreement that it would indeed be a wonderful thing. Li Qiye didn't expect these two who had reacted so strongly just moments ago to now so easily believe his words. He acted very bored and said, "Aren't you two suspicious that I'm talking nonsense? This is no fun at all." After some thought, Nanhuai Ren worriedly asked, "What are we going to tell the first elder?" Li Qiye indicated that there was nothing to worry about. The elders would surely understand their situation. As soon as they returned to the cleansing incense sect, the 3 of them were summoned to the elders' hall to be questioned about what happened at the 9 Saint Demon Gate. In the main hall, 4 elders were sitting facing Li Qiye's group. After hearing the whole story, the second elder was furious. He gritted his teeth, called out Li Qiye's name, and pointed directly at his face, accusing him of being a spy sent by the 9 Saint Demon Gate to the cleansing incense sect. Hearing this, the 3 of them felt 30% helpless and 70% bemused. The elders simply didn't understand what Li Qiye had said. Being directly accused by the second elder of being a spy for the 9 Saint Demon Gate, Li Qiye calmly asked on what basis he was making such a claim. He replied that today he would definitely expose Li Qiye's true face and make him reveal his true form. Then he began to use his own reasoning, explaining that first, the cleansing incense ancient order was not easy to obtain. But if this ancient order was given to him by the 9 Saint Demon Gate, it would be a different story because they had the ability to acquire it from the 3 old devils. Second, he brought up the fact that Li Qiye was originally a waste with a mortal physique and fate, yet he could successively defeat many elites of the 9 Saint Demon Gate. There must be something suspicious about this. Seeing the elders not acknowledging Li Qiye's abilities, Nanhuai Ren couldn't help but speak up, retorting that Li Qiye could also defeat him. This proved that Li Qiye was not the waste the second elder claimed he was. Before he could finish, the second elder shouted that Li Qiye being able to defeat him only proved how useless he was, even calling him a waste. Finishing his words, he brought out his third reason. He believed that Li Qiye's ability to easily command the saint statue of the 9 Saint Demon Gate was surely because he had some connection to them with this sect. Otherwise, how could an unrelated waste communicate with it? With the saint statue like that, this was something that even the sun-revolving demon emperor might not be able to do. Combining these 3 points, it all led to one conclusion. Li Xie was a spy sent by the Nine Saint Demon Gate. He believed he was a confidant directly taking orders from the sun-revolving demon emperor. Finally, he concluded chillingly that Li Xie was a mole sent by the old demon emperor to destroy the cleansing incense ancient sect. The 3 of them were speechless with him. Li Xie, with his eyes half closed, disdainfully said, "Elder Cow, you really have a vivid imagination." He didn't hesitate to mock their cleansing incense sect, saying it was already on the verge of decline, so what talent or virtue did it have left? What could possibly make the Nine Saint Demon Gate willing to sacrifice the lives of 3 elite disciples? Seeing Li Xie mock him like this, the second elder was agitated and about to rush forward to strangle him. But luckily, the first elder stopped him in time. The first elder spoke up temporarily, ignoring the second elder's reasoning, and turned to ask Li Xie why he wanted to break off the engagement. Li Xie shrugged and replied that there was no specific reason. He simply wasn't interested in Li Shuangyan. He also added that from the beginning, they couldn't expect to revive a long-declined sect just through a marriage alliance. He stated his opinion of the sun-revolving demon emperor after interacting with him, saying that this person's heart was very deep and scheming. If the marriage didn't happen, it was fine. But if it did, he would definitely be used by him. Li Xie propped up his chin confidently, saying that he had his own plans for the path to reviving the cleansing incense ancient sect. In Nan Huairen's eyes at this moment, Li Xie seemed like a god who was motivating him. His eyes sparkled as he said he would also try his best. However, regarding the words of these 2 boys, the first elder didn't pay them any mind. He ignored the recent events and changed the subject to the fact that Li Xie had truly passed the demon sect's trial. He allowed him to freely choose a technique, treasure, or weapon from the sect. Seeing him say this, Li Xie didn't continue the previous topic, but only praised that this was more like how an elder should act. After that, he happily intended to go choose a technique, and Elder Mo also turned to instruct Nan Huairen to go with Li Xie. Of course, he happily agreed. Li Xie followed Nan Huairen to the legendary treasure pavilion of the cleansing incense ancient sect. In front of the treasure pavilion stood a towering stone statue of the fierce crow. Therefore, this place was given the elegant name of Divine Crow Peak. Nan Huairen introduced to him that this was the place where all the treasures of the cleansing incense sect were kept. Even immortal artifacts, there were 1 or 2 items. As Li Xie's footsteps approached the stone statue, he suddenly stopped and looked up at its face. Seeing Li Xie's strange action, Nan Huairen asked, "Senior brother, do you know Lord Divine Crow?" He couldn't help but wonder, surely Li Xie couldn't also command this Divine Crow statue, right? Li Xie didn't bother to answer his question. At this moment, memories from a long time ago were surfacing in his mind. In the old days, there were children who laughed and happily called him Lord Divine Crow. Back then, when the first-generation elders of the cleansing incense ancient sect finished building this fierce crow statue, they asked, "My lord, do you think this statue has an imposing air?" It turned out that the first-generation elders had built this statue after hearing the story of the fierce crow from the Minren Immortal Emperor. The Minren Immortal Emperor shyly said he couldn't help but tell the story to his disciples. At this time, the disciples of the Minren Immortal Emperor came forward one by one saying that, without Lord Divine Crow, their cleansing incense ancient sect would not have been established. The disciples agreed to henceforth call this mountain Divine Crow Peakin. The future cultivators from all directions who came to the ancient sect to pay homage would have to come here to offer tribute to Lord Divine Crow. And so Divine Crow Peak was born from this. At this point, the disciples rushed to the fierce crow, asking him to also teach them a few skills. Helpless, the fierce crow used the wooden staff that had once disciplined the Minren Immortal Emperor to send this noisy group of children flying with one move. Even after being beaten, the disciples continuously thanked Lord Divine Crow for deigning to instruct them. Returning to reality, Li Xie now smiled and answered Nan Huairen's earlier question, saying he had never heard of the Divine Crow hearing. This Nan Huairen asked doubtfully, "Is there something you don't know?" Just then, a clanking sound came from the foot of the statue. Curious, Li Xie and his companion turned to see a man with long hair and a beard, dressed shabbily, sitting there with his hands and feet shackled. Li Xie turned to Nan Huairen and asked him why there was someone tied up here. Nan Huairen honestly replied that he didn't know either. Even Elder Mo didn't know the person's background. He added that some said he was a genius disciple of the sect, but because he committed a great crime, he was locked here for life to guard Divine Crow Peak. Hearing this, Li Xie didn't ask any more questions. Instead, Nan Huairen did something unnecessary by reminding Li Xie to be careful to avoid ending up like that. Li Xie, however, interpreted it as a threat, which made Nan Huairen break out in a cold sweat. After climbing a few steps, they finally saw the entrance to the treasure pavilion. Nan Huairen couldn't help but mutter again that this was the most precious place in the cleansing incense sect, and the elders' best disciples often gathered here. This ancient courtyard was uniquely designed in a triangular shape. Each corner of the triangle housed a pavilion categorized as the Armory Pavilion, the Treasure Pavilion, and the Scripture Pavilion, respectively. Going inside, he proudly continued his introduction, saying this place held all the precious techniques of the entire sect. This was the very foundation of the cleansing incense ancient sect, in contrast to Nan Huairen's pride. Li Xie's face was dejected as he complained, "Is this all that's left?" As soon as he finished speaking, he received quite a few dagger-like stares from the disciples around him. Nan Huairen shyly whispered in Li Qie's ear, telling him to tone it down a bit. The feeling of being stared at was not pleasant at all. Li Qie again showed a nonchalant expression, saying, "Why care about them?" Then he left his cowardly junior brother behind and hurried to the scripture pavilion to take a look first. Upon entering, Li Qie and Nan Huairen realized they weren't the only ones. There were quite a few disciples inside choosing techniques or manuals that suited them. But from the moment Li Qie stepped into the scripture pavilion, two pairs of eyes were watching him. First, a black-haired guy asked an orange-haired guy if he was the chief disciple. The other guy, looking at him with envy, replied, "That's right." The black-haired guy, already knowing, still pressed on. The waste with no cultivation foundation who became chief disciple by relying on the cleansing incense ancient order. The orange-haired guy added that Li Qie didn't even have the aptitude for cultivation. Behind these two, another pair chimed in, saying that Li Qie was a spy sent by the 9 Saint Demon Gate. They even said he bribed the Kui Hong Lo and the 3 Devils House in exchange for the ancient order. Gradually, more and more people started spreading malicious rumors about Li Qie. Furious, dagger-like stares were directed at him as if he were a traitor. To be fair, the position of chief disciple is extremely important. A newcomer, a piece of trash, getting to sit in the chief disciple's seat right away. How could this not enrage countless disciples? Seeing this, Nan Huairen was displeased and scolded them, saying they didn't know how formidable he was. He genuinely wanted to go teach them a lesson. On the contrary, Li Qie was very calm, as if he hadn't heard anything at all. He leisurely told him not to mind the words of these small fries. He even bluntly added that Nan Huairen didn't have the courage anyway because he was a big coward. With that, he went to the bookshelf and started searching in the section for the lowest level martial arts manuals. Seeing this, Nan Huairen kindly reminded him that these were all mortal level martial arts, with nothing good among them. "You have the Kunpeng 6 variants, that should be enough. We should go choose a higher level technique." However, ignoring his words, Li Qie pointed to a book titled Heavenly First Saber Manual and told him not to rush, that he had already found something good. Suddenly footsteps were heard approaching them from behind, then the faces of 3 arrogant youths appeared. They arrogantly asked if he was Li Qie. Li Qie glanced at them and calmly replied, "That's right." Hearing the affirmative answer, one of them, apparently the leader, cursed him, saying he used dirty tricks to get the chief disciple position. They demanded that he leave this place because he was not welcome here. The scene shifts to the armory pavilion. Zhao Hu stood with his hands on his hips, a challenging look on his face as he stared at Li Qie. He spoke, saying he heard he had used some dirty tricks to get the chief disciple position. He advised him to be sensible and give it up himself. Otherwise, his future days would not be easy. One of the brothers behind Zhao Hu spoke up. "Brother Zhao's lesson is very right." Nan Huairen saw Zhao Hu's actions and asked him what he wanted to do. Zhao Hu stared at Li Qie and asked if he was dissatisfied looking at him with that kind of gaze. Li Qie looked at Zhao Hu for about a second, then turned and walked away without a word, completely ignoring his challenge. Li Qie continued to choose books because of Zhao Hu. He forgot where he had left off, ignored by Li Qie. Zhao Hu could no longer hold back. His hands clenched into fists, veins bulging on his biceps. He roared, as if he wanted to rush forward and beat him to a pulp. Seeing Zhao Hu go crazy like this, Nan Huairen put a hand out to stop him, saying he was blatantly provoking Li Qie. Apologized to him quickly. "Don't think that, just because you have seen your brother, he protecting you, you can act lawlessly." Zhao Hu smirked, then grabbed Nan Huairen by the collar, contemptuously saying, "Being Li Qie's dog has certainly made you braver." Zhao Hu wanted to teach that fake Li Qie a lesson, and Nan Huairen dared to interfere. He lifted him up and yelled at him to get out of the way and not obstruct him. Although Nan Huairen was lifted into the air, he was not afraid at all, still cursing Zhao Hu as an idiot. "Li Qie can kill a Heaven's Primal Realm expert with ease. I'm trying to save your life and you don't even appreciate it." Zhao Hu couldn't take it anymore and threw a punch at Nan Huairen. Nan Huairen raised his hand to block it out of natural reflex. But before the fist could touch Nan Huairen, it was stopped by Li Qie. He spoke coldly. "This is not the place to fight, if you want to fight. Take it outside." Hearing this, Zhao Hu agreed, simultaneously letting go of Nan Huairen. If Li Qie loses, he has to get out of the sect. Li Qie showed a suit-yourself expression. Hearing this, Nan Huairen was very confident. He told Li Qie to show them his true strength, but before he could finish, Li Qie cut him off. He said he'd let him fight Zhao Hu. "Show him your true strength. If you lose, I'll pack my bags and leave too." Hearing Li Qie say this, Nan Huairen's confident expression turned to shock and panic. His face was covered in sweat, unable to believe what he had just heard. Zhao Hu pointed his finger at Li Qie's face. "These are your own words. He didn't force you. The two of them will meet in the courtyard." Nan Huairen, being the one involved, was about to say, "Wait a moment." He hadn't even had time to process this information, but Zhao Hu's group had already left. Nan Huairen had no choice but to turn to Li Qie with a worried expression. "You've given me such a heavy responsibility." "I can't bear it," Li Qie reassured him, saying that as Elder Mo's disciple, Nan Huairen should be enthusiastic and have some spirit. Nan Huairen explained that Elder Mo follows the Buddhist path. Therefore, he was sent to teach outer sect disciples like him because his cultivation wasn't progressing. He was assigned to handle the sect's communications. Elder Mo didn't push him to train, either just told him to rest when he was tired and not to force himself. Li Qie listened to Nan Huairen, but his expression remained confident. He told him to rest, assured. With him here, he couldn't lose. Hearing this, Nan Huairen felt a bit more confident, but to be sure, he asked Li Qiye again, "Is what you're saying true?" The scene shifts to the courtyard, where everyone from the academy has gathered around to watch the match between the two. Zhao Hu, carrying a saber almost as large as himself, stood opposite Nan Huairen. He taunted, "If you're afraid of dying, surrender. Now my great saber has no eyes." Nan Huairen was trembling all over, but he remained defiant, shouting for Zhao Hu to come at him, as he was no pushover. Seeing Nan Huairen's anxiety, Li Qiye reassured him, telling him not to be tense, as long as he listened to him. This Zhao Hu, a mere newborn tiger cub, was no match for him. The crowd around them started whispering upon hearing Li Qiye's words. "Is this little brat in front of us, really? Li Qiye?" Nan Huairen looked at Li Qiye as if he were a savior, and asked him, "How should I fight?" Li Qiye casually said, "Just fight however you want," leaving Nan Huairen dumbfounded. Seeing Nan Huairen distracted, Zhao Hu charged forward with his saber. "How dare you lose focus while fighting me?" Zhao Hu swung his saber straight at Nan Huairen. Nan Huairen reacted instantly, raising his sword to block. Zhao Hu's strength was overwhelming. One move sent Nan Huairen flying backward. Nan Huairen cursed under his breath. "Damn it! I blocked it and it still wasn't enough. Fine, then I'll take the initiative." Putting his thoughts into action, Nan Huairen leaped up, using the curved water sword art, riding the waves to attack Zhao Hu. Zhao Hu's green-haired underling standing outside commented, "This Nan Huairen's fighting spirit is quite strong." The orange-haired one replied, "What's the use? The gap in their cultivation is too large. Zhao Hu fighting. Nan Huairen is like bullying a child." As soon as the orange-haired one finished speaking, Nan Huairen was sent flying backward by one of Zhao Hu's blows, crashing to the ground so hard that pebbles flew into the air. Seeing Nan Huairen's miserable state, Li Qiye helped him up by his shoulder. He reminded him that he was using the curved water sword art incorrectly, then leaned in and whispered how to use it. 1,000 words of explanation are omitted here. Seeing Li Qiye whispering to Nan Huairen, Zhao Hu laughed scornfully and sneered, "One piece of trash, teaching another piece of trash? How ridiculous." Zhao Hu was very smug at this moment, asking how much longer the two wanted to chat. He didn't have much time to wait for them. Just as Zhao Hu spoke, Li Qiye had finished teaching the technique to Nan Huairen. Before returning to the fight, Li Qiye asked Nan Huairen if he remembered everything he had said. He just grunted in confirmation that he remembered. This time Nan Huairen returned much more confident, no longer trembling like before. He politely said that Zhao Hu had been waiting for a long time. Zhao Hu, still arrogant, snidely asked if their intimate moment was over. They were both straight men, and Zhao Hu's words were nothing short of an insult. Li Qiye didn't say much, letting his actions speak. He channeled his internal energy, dispersing a water incantation around the area. Zhao Hu looked down on Li Qiye's tactic. He even reminded him, "Without a water shield, you will die." But Li Qiye's real purpose wasn't to use this hastily prepared technique to defeat Zhao Hu, but something else, something Nan Huairen was very good at. Li Qiye analyzed that Nan Huairen's curved water sword art wasn't effective in actual combat, but when used for washing clothes, he was extremely skilled. Hearing this, Nan Huairen wondered if he was being praised. Li Qiye didn't hold back his words, saying, "Of course," and praising him for being exceptionally talented. Li Qiye told Nan Huairen not to use his second-rate sword skills to fight, but to use his first-rate technique and clean up his opponent as if he were laundry. Zhao Hu swung his sword, intending to land a final blow to finish off Nan Huairen. At that moment, Nan Huairen decided to use his curved water sword art for laundry. He imagined using soap bubbles to clean, sensing the movement of his opponent's actions. To put it simply, it was the soaking phase. Finally, by applying his laundry skills, he could sense where the force of the attack was coming from. In the end, he skillfully dodged the move. Zhao Hu frowned in annoyance when he saw Nan Huairen dodge his saber technique. Nan Huairen swung his sword to attack Zhao Hu. Thinking of his sword art, he used the tip of his sword to create soap bubbles, scrubbing away any clinging dirt. Then he added force to the whirlpool. In reality, Zhao Hu was caught in the same whirlpool Nan Huairen used for washing clothes, wrapping around his body for a full body cleanse. In other words, it was like scrubbing until the clothes tore. Finally, Thespin cycle of force struck him directly, catching him off guard and sending him flying several hundred meters away. Zhao Hu crashed hard to the ground, his head spinning, snot and drool flying everywhere from being spun around multiple times. Nan Huairen had used his laundry technique to deal with Zhao Hu, leaving him sprawled on the ground, unable to get up. It was truly a ridiculous sight. The green-haired and orange-haired underlings saw this and rushed to help Zhao Hu up. The green-haired one couldn't accept the fact that Zhao Hu had actually lost. The orange-haired one noticed something else. He was puzzled why Zhao Hu's clothes had become so clean after the fight. The green and orange-haired underlings, each supporting one of Zhao Hu's arms on their shoulders, ran away while turning back to issue a challenge. "This isn't over. Li Qiye and Nan Huairen just, you wait." Having won, Nan Huairen was in a great mood. He turned back and praised Li Qiye for being amazing. Just a little guidance from him had made him so powerful, even defeating Zhao Hu, something he had never imagined. Li Qiye, leaning on a stack of books, praised Nan Huairen for his significant improvement, saying it was passable. Li Qiye asked Nan Huairen if winning felt good. "If you're happy, now come help me move this pile of secret manuals back." Nan Huairen's joy turned to shock, his eyes wide and mouth agape. Seeing the pile of secret manuals in front of him, he had no idea when Li Qiye had found so many books. Nan Huairen struggled all afternoon until late at night, finally managing to move the entire pile of secret manuals. After finishing, Nan Huairen was puzzled. The elder had told Li Qiye to take only one secret manual, yet he had taken a whole pile like this. Li Qiye looked at the pile of books and insisted, "This is one book." Nan Huairen was confused. No matter how he looked at it, it seemed like a pile of mortal martial arts records, not a single book. With a cunning glint in his eye, Li Qiye glanced at Nan Huairen and replied, "I took the Mortal World Martial Arts Compiled Edition." Nan Huairen didn't expect Li Qiye to play with words like that. He raised his hand towards him, indicating that he had no energy left to mess around with him today. Li Qiye felt that was fair. Nan Huairen was exhausted today, so he should go back and rest early. Nan Huairen said goodbye to Li Qiye, saying he'd see him tomorrow, and left yawning widely as he went. As soon as Nan Huairen left, Li Qiye closed and bolted the door. He lit a fire and burned the entire pile of secret manuals he had just brought back. Li Qiye smirked. "I told you, this is one book. A physique scripture in its formative state. It was a pitch-black fiery pit. From the depths of that black hole, a fierce flame blazed. It was surrounded by a continuous blazing fire. The temperature of the flames was indescribably high. Ashes floated around, creating a truly eerie scene. Li Qiye stood there watching the roaring flames. This physique scripture, one of the 9 grand heavenly scriptures, which Qi had secretly processed in the beginning, had now truly become useful. Back then, the luminous one had comprehended it, from the incantation heavenly physique, one of the 12 immortal physiques. Around the black hole of fire sparks now burst forth, carrying streams of scripture incantations. The sparks, each carrying an ancient character, began to form a vortex, swirling into a circle. The space expanded more and more, with thousands of characters flying in a circular whirlwind. Kie stood right at the center of the bright circle. He really wanted to see what he could comprehend. Thousands of ancient characters formed into streaks of fiery lightning. Striking towards Li Qiye, his situation was no different from undergoing a tribulation, with 1,000 bolts of fire hitting his body wave after wave formations of ancient characters pierced his body with fiery electric sparks. He still had enough strength to say, "What can I comprehend from this physique scripture formation?" He was truly audacious. In another dimension, Li Qiye had entered a world filled with a sea of fresh blood. Above him was a red sky with blood-red clouds floating by. Beneath his feet was a heart still beating rhythmically. Thump, thump. He was utterly surprised, not expecting to be standing on a heart that was still throbbing like this. No wonder the feeling was so strange and real. The surface was slippery, and he kept sinking into it. Li Qiye was truly shocked to realize this was a heart in a sea of blood. Suddenly, a wave of blood towering high from the open sea, over 4 meters tall, sharp and ferocious, with the resentful shriek of the ocean, crashed down where Qiye was standing. Rumble, the sound of the wave crashed down from above onto him and the beating heart. The water pressure was too great. His ears couldn't take it, and blood streamed from both of them. Li Qiye sat in a daze, resting his 2 hands on his heart, whispering that the shock of the bloodline to the heart was so painfully intense. I wonder if he has ever been in love. Is this feeling similar to that one? Li Qiye coughed nonstop, panting heavily, but still spoke defiantly. Let me see just how terrifying this scripture formation is. Blood dripped incessantly from his eyes and mouth. One hand clutched his chest. The sea of blood fell silent, becoming unusually quiet, signaling that a stronger disaster was coming. He sat waiting on that still-beating heartstone, looking out at the vast sea like a blood-soaked sunset. Then he wondered to himself, is it over already? Suddenly the water's surface trembled. He lost his balance, shaken by the violently pulsating heart. It turned out to be another great flood, with a dozen tsunamis towering high above, crashing towards him once again. Li Qiye for the first time seemed unable to bear it with his shoulders, eyes, nose, mouth, and all 5 senses. He said to himself, this can't be real, can it? It seems he still wasn't ready to welcome such a powerful tsunami. The scene was filled with the color red, his blood mixing with the blood of the sea. The next day elsewhere, the sky was bright and clear at dawn, with green clouds and a cool breeze. Nan Huairen was jogging around the courtyard. Suddenly, a shadowy figure with an unclear face appeared on the training ground. It shot out 2 short swords enveloped in a blue light towards Huainan. Reacting instinctively, Huainan jumped back and shouted, "Who's there?" Liu Yuan spoke with a challenging tone. "Well, if it isn't the lackey of our chief disciple." "Still looking like a piece of trash, huh?" he said, mockingly, belittling him. "What a way to greet someone on such a beautiful day. Really knows how to ruin the mood." Liu Yuan looked at Nan Huairen and said, "What's the hurry? Come and talk to your big brother." Huainan scratched his head and said he was on official business. "Brother, please don't make things difficult for me." This big brother arrogantly said, "I don't care what official business you have. You injured my junior brother Zhao Hu. I must get justice for him." Nan Huairen was in a difficult position, just scratching his head dumbly, not knowing how to respond. Just then, Fang Mingtong, heroic and handsome with a radiant appearance, stepped forward to speak for Huainan. Fang Mingtong said to senior brother Liu, "I hope you won't cause trouble for Huainan. If Huainan has official business, please let him go. If you have any grudges, you can come find me." Mingtang's eyes were large and sparkled like stars. His face was spirited, and his stature was tall. He really looked like the righteous image of a gentlemanly hero. Huainan stared at him with his mouth agape. "You trick me once, I'll rob you. Once. Keep it up, I appreciate you, hired hand." Liu Yuan leaped down from the training ground and approached the 2 fellow disciples of the cleansing incense ancient sect. He said, "Well, isn't this Fang Mingtang, the senior brother of the outer sect, trash?" He still held the short sword in his hand, its wavy blade sharp-tipped. He accelerated, using his power to point the sword at Ming Tang's neck, and continued, "A senior brother is just a piece of trash with a slightly higher status." In this precarious situation, Fang Ming Tang broke out in a cold sweat and said, "Liu Yuan, don't push people too far." His neck was tilted back, a sharp sword pointed right at his throat. Any mistake would mean instant death. Liu Yuan challenged the senior brother right after ambushing him. "Can you even make a move against me?" Standing between the two, Nan Huairen was confused and didn't know what to do. From behind, Liu Yuan Lichie's voice echoed, "How about you fight me?" Back then, the cleansing incense ancient sect didn't distinguish between the inner and outer sects. Why is it now imitating those secular sects with such practices? Liu Wen couldn't believe it. When did Chie appear? And this small young person is Li Chie. At this moment, Chie spoke again. "That's right, you see your chief senior brother and still don't bow." He seemed to have just escaped from the physique scripture formation, covered in blood. His clothes and hair were all stained with it. Half of his face was covered in blood and 2 streams of fresh blood flowed from his mouth. He was a bloody mess. Yet he still had that familiar smug smile on his face. Nan Huairen asked senior brother, "What happened? Why are you covered in blood?" Ming Tang's sparkling eyes widened again. "You are the chief senior brother." He immediately knelt on one knee before Chie, announcing, "Outer sect's first disciple. Fang, Ming Tang, pays his respects to the chief senior brother." On the side, Huan Han kept calling out, "Senior brother, why is your body so bloody?" His face full of worry. Liu Yuan brandished the short blade in his hand, challenging Chie Humph, a piece of trash who got his position illegitimately. "You dare show off your power?" He smirked maliciously, full of arrogance. "Do you dare fight me? I'll show you just how much weight I carry." As he spoke, he licked the blade. It's a mystery how he didn't cut his own tongue, but it seemed Liu Yuan didn't notice that no one cared what he was saying. Nan Huairen was busy cleaning Chie's clothes. Qi urged him, "Hurry up and clean my body a little." Poof, whoosh. With a bit of channeled energy, he pushed off the dirt and blood. A blast of water power left him clean, fragrant, neat, and handsome. Even if he's a little short, his power is unrivaled. Liu Yuan on the side was furious. His eyes, looking like they were highlighted and bullet-shaped, watched the two of them grooming themselves, completely ignoring him. He craned his neck and shouted, "Listen to me obediently." "All right, now." Li Chie was also cleaned up, sparkling like new. He said, "Go on. Tell me how you want to fight, I'll take it all." Liu Yuan lost his temper, yellow veins popping on his face. What kind of species was he to have yellow veins? He cursed. "Damn you, Li Chie, we fight here and now." Liu Yuan was now in his beastman form, half human, half beast. The fins of a winged reptile grew on his face, forming a layer of scales that covered it. Like a helmet, he said, "Don't think I'll underestimate you just because your cultivation is low." He unfurled his yellow bat-like wings, still holding the pair of short swords. Baring his sharp fangs, he hissed that he would use his strongest form to crush Chie, wanting him to know what despair felt like. Nan Huairen and Fang Ming Tang stood there watching his transformation. This was the golden-scaled winged serpent form. Li Chie wondered why it was a snake again. Liu Yuan attacked him suddenly from above, not forgetting to shout, "Hand over your life." He stepped 1 foot back, taking a stance, and focused his power into one leg, his backhand, then created a blazing fire right in his palm. Chie said, "You've come at the right time. I just learned an ancient scripture form and haven't had a place to test it. Meeting a winged serpent beast form here is very convenient for a guinea pig." The fiery punch struck Liu Yuan's short sword head on. A powerful pressure wave was generated around them, and the short sword shattered into many pieces. But Chie's hand remained intact, the flame still burning brightly in his fist. Chie's 2 disciples, one after the other, exclaimed, senior brother, what did you manage to cultivate last night?" Liu Yuan was so shocked he could only utter what he couldn't believe his eyes. How strange, everyone said he had a mortal physique and a mortal fate. What mortal physique? This is clearly the domain-suppressing divine physique. Liu Yuan, being cautious, jumped back a distance. It seems he had smelled danger. Looking at Li Chie's strange arm-red veins like fresh blood spread in winding irregular patterns. His arm was engulfed in a blood-red flame. This fear paralyzed him temporarily. He feared he would lose his life if he continued to fight like this. The scene shifts to a room in the second elder's house. At this time, second elder Kaoxiong was talking with his disciple Jian Yinggit. Turned out they hadn't given up, and had secretly sent people to follow Li Chie. The second elder calmly poured tea in front of Jian Ying and asked how the investigation he had assigned was going. After hearing this, Jian Ying respectfully clasped his hands and replied that he had found out that after entering the scripture pavilion, Li Chie had chosen a total of 108 mortal martial arts manuals. Hearing this, Kaoxiong frowned suspiciously, wondering what Li Chie would do with so many martial arts techniques. Not stopping there, Jian Ying added that besides the 108 martial arts sets, Li Chie also took the moon toad wheel technique and the Kunpeng's 6 minor postures. Hearing this, Kaoxiong put down the teacup he was drinking from and chuckled softly. He believed the moon toad wheel technique relied on forcefully using blood qi to increase power. Relying on such unorthodox methods would surely lead to a bottleneck. This could only be a cultivation method conceived by an arrogant, lazy, and gluttonous good-for-nothing. Jian Ying also agreed with his master's words. However, he was still wondering, as the Kunpeng's 6 minor postures was the basic technique for the emperor-level art, the Kunpeng's 6 transformations. Only with it could one truly cultivate the Kunpeng's 6 transformations. For Li Chie, To have chosen that technique, he could be considered to have a good eye. However, Kaohsiung said that this was the very definition of arrogance. The reason he said this was because the Kunpeng's 6 transformations was an emperor-level art. If the basic technique were really that easy to cultivate, how could it be that no one in their cleansing incense ancient sect had ever mastered it? In the end, Kaohsiung told Jianying that after all, Li Qiye was currently the chief disciple of the cleansing incense ancient sect, and he couldn't let him stand in Jianying's way. Seeing himself held in such high regard by his master, Jianying happily bowed his head to thank him for his guidance. Then, as if remembering something, Kaohsiung asked Jianying if he had made arrangements for Liu Yuan. Jianying said that he had arranged everything, and by now, the Liu family should have already received it. Hearing this, Kaohsiung smiled in approval and told Jianying to go personally and not let Liu Yuan make too much of a scene. He said that after the Liu family won, he should go and apologize to Li Qiye. It seems he automatically assumed that Li Qiye definitely didn't have the ability to defeat Liu Yuan. However, he could never have imagined that on the other side, Liu Yuan was standing terrified in front of Li Qiye, asking him what kind of evil art he had practiced to obtain such a body. At this moment, Li Qiye, clenching his fist with immense momentum, gave a sinister smile. His arm had turned a dark red color at some point. Seeing this situation, Nan Huairen curiously asked what was wrong with Li Qiye's arm. Senior brother Fang, standing next to him, looked at Li Qiye's body with shining eyes and explained to Nan Huairen that this was the domain-suppressing divine physique. He added that this technique could channel the chaotic heavenly Tao into the body, tempering the physical form at all times, allowing the practitioner to cultivate anytime, anywhere. This technique can increase the physical strength of the practitioner. After reaching great mastery, one could move mountains and fill seas with just physical strength alone, comparable to an immortal emperor. However, Li Qiye had only just grasped this technique, so his defensive and offensive power were still not enough for him to fight comfortably. At this moment, Liu Yuan gritted his teeth and called out Li Qiye's name directly. He didn't care if he had a mortal physique or a divine physique. Today he was determined to teach him a lesson. With that, he threw away the broken saber in his hand and pulled out another one. Liu Yuan's hand shot out a blue light that fell onto the saber. Then he used his own psychic power to extend the saber's size. He swung the saber, pointing it at Li Qiye, and said, "Let's do this again." At this moment, Liu Yuan suddenly leapt high into the air, looking down at Li Qiye. His wings allowed him to maintain a flying posture in the air. The Liu family believed that strengthening one's physical body was nothing special. He was confident that his golden-scaled winged serpent had an advantage in the air, which would give him a better chance to easily break through Li Qiye's defenses. However, after blinking, Li Qiye suddenly disappeared from where he stood. Liu Yuan was bewildered, unable to see him. Just then, the man named Liu was startled, because Li Qiye had somehow moved behind him, without him noticing. Before he could get his bearings, Li Qiye's voice rang out. "Where are you looking, kid? Your grandpa is up here in the sky." With that, he swung his fist hard at Liu Yuan. But surprisingly, this time he was able to dodge his attack. Seeing that his attack couldn't hit the man named Liu, Li Qiye was disappointed. It seemed he still needed more time to better cultivate this technique. After dodging Li Qiye's attack, Liu Yuan gradually stabilized himself in the air. He looked at Li Qiye, a person with a mortal physique who could also float in the air. This startled him, and he couldn't understand how he could stand so easily in the air. Li Qiye calmly crossed his arms and replied, "Is being able to fly that great? What's all this nonsense you're shouting about?" Those watching the match could now clearly see that Li Qiye had used some technique that condensed into a pair of black wings on his back, allowing him to fly. Nan Huairen and senior brother Fang, seeing that Li Qiye could fly, couldn't help but wonder when he had learned to do so. Senior brother Fang now looked at him with eyes sparkling like stars, praising him, repeatedly saying the chief disciple was indeed powerful, unlike ordinary people. As for the man named Liu, after his initial surprise, he snorted coldly and began to acknowledge that Li Qiye was not as useless as the rumors claimed. However, this didn't affect Liu Yuan's fighting spirit at all. He thought, so what if Li Qiye can fly? What can he do to me? With that, he decisively pointed his sword and flew straight towards where Li Qiye was standing, still extremely confident that with Li Qiye's meager skills, he could never win. Just as the sharp sword was about to strike Li Qiye, he suddenly ducked his head to dodge. Then he threw a powerful punch at the man named Liu's face. However, this time he managed to tilt his head and dodge it. Liu Yuan taunted that his striking speed was too slow to do anything to him. Then he continued to swing his sword at Li Qiye. This time, he managed to hit him. Li Qiye crossed his hands in an X to block the recent blow, preventing it from piercing him. The force of this sword strike sent him flying quite a distance, widening the gap between them. Seeing Li Qiye block this move of his, Liu Yuan was quite surprised. But he immediately switched to a new technique. He channeled psychic power into his sword, magically extending the hilt. The sword had now turned into a long spear. Liu Yuan, holding the long spear with both hands, attacked Li Qiye. He guessed that he wouldn't be able to resist much longer. He raised the long spear high and spun it faster and faster. It seemed he was preparing some powerful move, certain that Li Qiye could not block this strike. Seeing Liu Yuan's continuous and fierce attacks, Li Qiye couldn't help but remark that this guy really had a lot of tricks. But he showed no fear or hesitation in the face of this attack from the man named Liu, instead, smiling an appreciative smile. Then Liu Yuan flapped his wings, pushing his speed to the limit as he advanced on Li Qiye. Our fearless hero also secretly praised him. He's very strong. Immediately after Liu Yuan's figure appeared above Li Qiye's head, He swung down at the top of his head, but luckily, Li Qiye reacted in time and raised his hand to block the move. However, because the force was too strong, he was sent flying, his back slamming hard onto the ground, sending rocks flying. Seeing himself struggling like this, Li Qiye realized that although the domain-suppressing divine physique and the Kunpeng's 6 postures were both powerful techniques, because he had only reached the introductory level, it was still not enough to deal with an opponent with a much higher cultivation. In pain, Li Qiye spat out a mouthful of blood. Not giving him a chance to rest and recover, Liu Yuan truly wanted to hunt him down and kill him. He continued to dive down, intending to end Li Qiye's life with one move. Watching the fight, Nan Huairen and senior brother Fang shouted anxiously, telling Li Qiye to be careful. All of Liu Yuan's rage and anger seemed to be poured into this attack. He shouted, "Li Qiye, go die," and decisively thrust his spear down. Just when it seemed Li Qiye was done for, the snake-beating stick suddenly trembled violently, wanting to strike Liu Yuan on its own. At this moment, Li Qiye had no other choice but to reach out and grab the snake-beating stick. As Liu Yuan was about to pierce Li Qiye, he quickly dodged to the right to avoid the spear tip. At the same time, he swung the snake-beating stick in his hand and hit the man named Liu square on the head, causing his blood to splatter. Liu Yuan couldn't believe he had been defeated by a rotten wooden stick in Li Qiye's hand. He immediately lost his will to fight and collapsed to the ground. After that dangerous encounter, Li Qiye also sat on the ground, panting heavily. A moment later, he breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, he had managed to hold back his strength in that last blow. Otherwise, Liu Yuan would have been sent to the heavens. With blood still on his lips, he apologized to Liu Yuan because his victory wasn't exactly glorious. Nan Huairen and senior brother Fang came over to help Li Qiye up, not forgetting to ask if he was okay. He just calmly replied that he had underestimated his opponent and the fall hurt a little, but it was nothing serious. The one with the real problem was Liu Yuan lying motionless on the ground. At this moment, senior brother Fang couldn't help but offer his sincere praise to Li Qiye. Standing on the side witnessing the battle was also the disciple Jian Ying of that second elder. He stood frozen like a statue after witnessing how Li Qiye defeated Liu Yuan. His face filled with fear. He said that apart from the final cudgel technique, Li Qiye was completely different from the intelligence he had gathered. Jian Ying could never have imagined that Li Qiye could master the domain-suppressing divine physique. Moreover, he could also cultivate a flight technique. He wondered where on earth Li Qiye had learned these techniques, because he knew very well that the martial arts Li Qiye took from the scripture pavilion couldn't possibly achieve these effects. He racked his brains but couldn't figure it out. Could it be based on the moon-toad wheel technique and the Kunpeng's 6 minor postures? But he immediately shook his head vigorously, dismissing this crazy speculation. He couldn't wrap his head around how one could achieve such results. Jian Ying returned and told Cao Xiong what he had witnessed, as well as his recent speculations. Unexpectedly, Cao Xiong also nodded and said his thinking was not wrong. Cao Xiong explained to him that the momentum Li Qiye unleashed when flying was the Kunpeng's battle intent, which he himself had also sensed. This is the ultimate technique of the cleansing incense ancient sect, called the Kunpeng's 6 transformations. Jian Ying was quite surprised to hear his master say this. At this moment, Cao Xiong, with a serious expression, shouted for the law enforcement team, then relayed the Grand Elder's order for them to quickly go and arrest Li Qiye. The law enforcement team worked swiftly, immediately surrounding the 3 of them, Li Qiye included, to prevent them from escaping. Seeing a group of men in black surrounding them, the 3 knew they were from the cleansing incense sect's law enforcement team. Nan Huairen, now worried and suspicious, asked Li Qiye if he had caused some huge trouble again. Senior brother Fang defended him, saying it was clearly Liu Yuan who attacked first and he was only defending himself. But unlike the worried expressions of the other 2, Li Qiye still had that carefree, fearless look on his face and let out a cold snort. He wanted to see how the leader of the law enforcement team who came to arrest him, or rather the second elder, Cao Xiong, would sentence him. Not disappointing his expectations, Cao Xiong didn't make him wait long. He loudly accused Li Qiye of colluding with the 9 Saint Demon Gate and stealing the Emperor-level secret manual of the cleansing incense ancient sect. He ordered the law enforcement team to arrest him immediately. Li Qiye, with his hands bound, was brought to the assembly hall of the cleansing incense ancient sect. Everyone there, without asking him a single question, called him a spy. The Grand Elder began to reprimand Li Qiye, saying that since he arrived at the sect, there hadn't been a single day he stopped causing trouble. However, before he could finish, Li Qiye interrupted and questioned him back. Could it be that the Grand Elder of the cleansing incense sect really believes such baseless accusations? Seeing Li Qiye's unrepentant attitude, the Grand Elder scolded him for being insolent. The other elders sat in silence, not knowing what to say, except for Cao Xiong, Li Qiye's staunchest opponent, who firmly stated that it wasn't a baseless rumor. He pointed at Li Qiye and loudly accused him before the elders of colluding with the 9 Saint Demon Gate to steal the Emperor-level secret manual of the cleansing incense ancient sect. He proposed immediate punishment and harsh interrogation for him. Li Qiye calmly smiled and said to Cao Xiong, "If you want to pin such a great crime on me, you must have solid evidence." He replied that today, during his fight with Liu Yuan, he had revealed his Kunpeng's battle intent in the blink of an eye, and this technique was part of the Emperor-level art, the Kunpeng's 6 transformations of the cleansing incense ancient sect. He recalled the day Li Qiye returned from the 9 Saint Demon Gate, when he had refuted his reasoning, claiming the cleansing incense sect had nothing worthy of the Demon Gate's designs. But now he believed the 9 Saint Demon Gate had been coveting the sect's secret manual for a long time. He continued with his speculation that the Nine Saint Demon Gate might have developed a secret art to hide cultivation, allowing Li Qiye to feign a mortal body and then stage a grand play coordinating from the inside and outside. Finally, he said he might have used some method to get the secret manual from the scripture pavilion, hiding it within the pile of mortal martial arts to deceive others. He even carefully guessed that after learning the secret manual, Li Qiye would burn all those manuals to destroy the evidence. Cao Xiong thought his reasoning was airtight. Luckily, because Li Qiye was arrogant and conceited, he had accidentally released the Kunpeng's battle intent and exposed himself. Hearing this, Li Qiye stood frozen for a moment, then burst out laughing as if he had just heard a joke. While laughing, he mocked Cao Xiong, saying that although his words sounded like solid evidence, they were ultimately just his own subjective thoughts. Seeing that he not only refused to confess, but also mocked him, Cao Xiong angrily shouted for him to explain how he came to possess the Kunpeng's 6 transformations. Li Qiye very confidently replied that he had learned the Kunpeng's 6 minor postures, and from it evolved and comprehended the principles within. He said, "I'm a genius, are these old geezers not going to allow it?" Cao Xiong became even angrier. He of course didn't believe that a mortal physique person like Li Qiye was a genius who could deduce a higher level technique from a basic one. The Grand Elder, who had been sitting silently watching the two argue, finally spoke up. However, Cao Xiong didn't expect the Grand Elder to order Li Qiye to be untied. The Grand Elder explained to him that he found some truth in Li Qiye's words because they truly had no solid evidence to prove he had stolen the secret manual. As soon as he was untied, Li Qiye rubbed his sore wrists. He said it was because he was too outstanding that he had caused so many misunderstandings for Cao Xiong. He continued suggesting that the two of them make a bet. Cao Xiong was about to refuse, thinking that a brat like Li Qiye wasn't worthy of betting with him. But before he could refuse, the Grand Elder cut him off and signaled for Li Qiye to say what he wanted to bet. Li Qiye satisfyingly said that he should be given 1 month to train 3 disciples, after which they would compete against 3 top disciples chosen by the second elder. He laid out the terms of the bet. If his disciples defeated the elder's disciples, Cao Xiong would have to admit that his talent was far superior to his forever. Hearing this, Cao Xiong found it utterly ridiculous. He kept calling him a spy for the 9 Saint Demon Gate. So wasn't it incredibly simple for him to find a few elite disciples to compete? He definitely wouldn't fall into this trap. Li Qiye had anticipated he would say this. So to put him at ease, he requested that he would choose disciples from the Cleansing Incense sect to teach not outsiders. Furthermore, the disciples he chose would be from the outer sect. Hearing him say this, the Grand Elder didn't know what more to say. Hearing this, Cao Xiong thought he was truly a stubborn conservative. The 3rd and 4th elders who had been silent until now couldn't help but speak up, doubting that outer sect disciples could become better than Cao Xiong's disciples in just 1 month. This was a highly unlikely event. The elders saw that since these were Li Qiye's own conditions, they might as well let him try and see. Elder Mo also nodded in agreement, saying this was actually quite good. Li Qiye then stated his condition. If he won, it would also prove the strength of the outer sect disciples. He requested that at that time, the elders abolish the discriminatory system between the inner and outer sects of the Cleansing Incense ancient sect. The Grand Elder was quite surprised. So this was Li Qiye's purpose. Hearing this, Cao Xiong disdainfully said that it was natural for disciples with insufficient aptitude to be placed in the outer sect. What was wrong with that? Li Qiye, of course, retorted. He believed the ancient sect should give every disciple an equal opportunity to cultivate, and it was time to abolish this outdated and useless rule. Hearing this, the Grand Elder could only sigh and explain that because the ancient sect was currently weak and cultivation resources were limited, they had no choice but to resort to this measure. Even so, Li Qiye firmly stated that with this bet, he wanted to prove that the aptitude of the outer sect disciples was still worthy of the sect's full-hearted cultivation, just like the inner sect disciples. Seeing Li Qiye trying to persuade him again, the Grand Elder chuckled and agreed, then turned to ask for Cao Xiong's opinion. Seeing that the Grand Elder had already agreed, Cao Xiong naturally had no further objections. He accepted this bet with Li Qiye, and this old man was extremely stubborn. He spoke up again, saying that if Li Qiye lost, he was definitely a spy, and at that point, he wouldn't let him offer a single word of defense. Li Qiye quickly agreed that if he lost, he would let Cao Xiong pass judgment on him. The scene shifts to the outer sect disciples' training ground, a place called Cleansing Stone Valley. It was currently the disciples' training time. Beside the waterfall, a master was instructing the outer sect disciples in their cultivation. Suddenly, this master heard someone speaking behind him. It was Li Qiye, who had arrived to begin his Betnan Hui Ren, following. Li Qiye was still chattering worriedly, saying the gap between outer and inner sect disciples was huge. Do you really want to choose outer sect disciples? The master teaching the disciples saw these 2 noisy people appear out of nowhere and turned to ask who they were telling them not to disturb the outer sect disciples' cultivation. Seeing that it wasn't Elder Mo but a strange master in front of him, Li Qiye couldn't help but ask Nan Hui Ren, "Where is your master?" Nan Hui Ren helplessly replied that if it were really Elder Mo, teaching things would have been fine. He introduced the person standing before him to Li Qiye as the technique transmission elder, named Zhu Yanhai. Unfortunately for the 2 of them, he was Cao Xiong's hunting dog. Nan Hui Ren whispered in his ear that any outer sect disciple with decent aptitude would surely be recommended to Cao Xiong by him first. Hearing this, Li Qiye disdainfully replied that Cao Xiong usually looked down on the outer sect, yet he still found a watchdog, didn't he? Li Qiye still politely addressed him as Elder Zhu, asking if he hadn't heard about the bet between him and the other elders, but unexpectedly, he frankly admitted that he knew. but didn't care. He thought it was all just Li Jie and his group causing trouble. Li Jie ignored his words, patting his shoulder and telling him he could rest for a month. For the next month, he could rest assured and leave the training of these outer sect disciples to him. Zhu Yanhai was about to scold Li Jie. What right do you have to tell me to rest? But before he could finish, he suddenly grabbed his shoulder and pressed down hard, forcing him to kneel at his feet. He calmly said, Elder Zhu, it's better if you don't cause any more trouble. Zhu Yanhai couldn't believe what kind of force this was that could make him kneel with just one hand. Zhu Yanhai was pressed down by Li Jie, with one hand forced to kneel at his feet. He told him he should just rest. The old man's face was contorted in pain as he cried out for Li Jie to stop. The outer sect disciples training behind them saw that Li Jie could suppress Zhu Yanhai with just one hand and couldn't help but wonder who he was, hearing his junior brother's question. Fang Mingtang's eyes filled with adoration as he said, This is the chief senior brother. He is the one who will replace Elder Zhu to teach them. At this point, Li Jie also let go of Zhu Yanhai. He ran off saying the classic line of every loser, Just you wait for me. Nan Huairen happily laughed and wished him a slow journey. Li Jie, with a proud posture, walked up to the outer sect disciples and began to introduce himself. He told them directly his purpose for being there for the next month. They would be personally taught by him. Before starting, he asked them a question that no one had thought of. He asked if they, who came here with great ambitions to cultivate the Tao, were content to be taught by a bald-headed dog. He was here to restore order. Li Jie pointed and declared that after winning the bet with Cao Xiong, the cleansing incense ancient sect would no longer have a distinction between inner and outer sects. He wanted them to accept his teaching and break this unjust rule together. One would think that upon hearing this news, these outer sect disciples would be excited and eager to respond. But Li Jie didn't expect that. Aside from Fang Mingtang, the other disciples remained calm, their expressions unmoved. Suddenly, a hand was raised wanting to ask Li Jie a question. It turned out to be a young girl. He signaled for her to speak. She asked directly how, in just one short month, he planned to train weaklings like them to defeat Cao Xiong's elite disciples. Hearing this question, Li Jie praised the girl for her excellent question. He expressed that he really liked inquisitive children, being called a child by someone who looked no older than herself. The girl pouted and retorted, Aren't you just a child yourself? At this moment, Li Jie, holding the snake-beating stick, gave a sinister and slightly wicked smile, saying they would soon see his teaching methods. Nan Huairen, acting knowledgeable, said they must be mentally prepared, because the senior brother was very strict. Seeing Nan Huairen still standing next to him, Li Jie signaled for him to join the ranks with the other disciples. His words were like a thunderclap to him. He painfully confirmed with him, Do I have to train with you too? After a few hours of training, sunset finally fell. Li Jie stretched wearily and asked the disciples if they had gained a lot from today's training session. At this moment, all the disciples were lying on the ground, trembling with no strength to stand up and answer Li Jie. Nan Huairen, his face contorted, was lying on the ground crying miserably and begging for treatment. Behind Li Jie, a large medical team was already waiting. It turned out he had already contacted the medical team to ensure everyone could receive the best treatment and that no one would die. These medics gave a thumbs up, telling everyone to rest assured and leave the treatment to them. A medic came to treat the girl, Luo Jianing, who was sitting on the ground with a few bumps on her head. He assured her that they were just superficial wounds and would be healed by tomorrow. Nan Huairen dragged himself to a medic, saying he was severely injured and couldn't move, but to his surprise, the medic also told him he was just exhausted and would be fine after a little rest. Hearing the medic's words, Li Jie announced that training would continue tomorrow, making Nan Huairen cry out in despair. Li Jie calmly turned his back and announced their training schedule for the month, sparring with him in the morning, receiving emergency medical treatment in the afternoon. It turned out his training method was simply fight, 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 and fight. If they didn't want to be beaten to a pulp like this every day, they had better try to get stronger. Hearing this, the entire group trembled and cried, missing their parents and wanting to go home, because for the next month they would be beaten miserably and continuously. Every morning as usual, if there was nothing important. The Grand Elder would maintain his familiar sitting posture withdrawn in that simple rustic room. Suddenly, the sound of approaching footsteps startled the Grand Elder. He opened his eyes slightly to see it was Li Jie. He had no idea what his intentions were. Besides, Li Jie had always acted unpredictably, so it was better to just ask him directly. Li Jie, you're not in the outer sect training the disciples for the bet. Why have you come to my place? There are some things that I just don't feel comfortable leaving unclear. I've come to ask you, the big boss, the Grand Elder hesitantly realized. You want to ask why the second elder is opposing you? Is that it? That's right. This was the issue that puzzled Qi at first. Elder Chao had supported him, but now his attitude had changed so drastically. Perhaps there was some hidden reason. As they were both elders, there were some things Li Jie was better off hearing from the old man himself. The Grand Elder stared without blinking, then suddenly laughed out loud. And here, I thought you understood everything. Jie hadn't expected this day to come. The old man was right on the money. You're really petty, you old geezer. Seeing Li Jie's impatient look, he secretly guessed he was happy. Let's put it this way. Cao Xiong once aimed for the position of sect master and caused quite a few problems. In the end, I taught him a lesson, and only then did he behave. Cao Xiong is arrogant and ambitious by nature. He holds a grudge about this, so he has poured all his efforts into cultivating disciples. He wants to train a disciple to become the sect master. Li Qie replied bluntly, "That's right." His first disciple, He Jianying, is a talented genius. He was originally the choice for the sect's chief disciple, but because I once intended to abolish the chief disciple system, the position has always been left vacant. So on the surface, he supports Li Qie, but in reality, he wants to use you to stabilize the chief disciple system. Then one day, when you're dead, he'll help his disciple take over. The old man didn't need many words. That was enough for Qie to figure it out. It's just that Cao Xiong never expected you to be able to sit so firmly in this position. That's why Cao Xiong is opposing you now. He wants to force Li Qie to give up the chief disciple position he has long coveted. All right, everything is clear now. Qie doesn't want to bother the old man anymore. I'll be leaving now. Wait, before he left, the Grand Elder had a few things to say. Cao Xiong's reasoning is not entirely without merit. If you truly betray the sect, I will personally take away your position as chief disciple. Although he was hard to read on this matter, Li Qie was extremely serious. Rest assured, old man, this sect doesn't just belong to you, it belongs to all of us. The knots in his heart had been somewhat untangled. Now what needed to be done was to raise the cultivation level of the sect's disciples. The endless years have witnessed the rise of countless powerful experts. The world only sees these experts but doesn't know that behind each one, there has always been a special dark crow. The Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect, located in the Jeweled Sage Upper Kingdom. The Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect could be said to have a deep and long-standing inheritance, an immortal sect of an emperor's lineage, in the early years of the emperor's era. The one who looked down upon the 9 heavens and 10 earths, immortal Emperor Min Ren, founded the sect, naming it the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect. Upon meeting his old master, the Dark Crow immortal Emperor Min Ren entrusted the sect to him, hoping he would look after his life's work.